year, this 2-mile super speedway is quiet and peaceful. But when men like Mario Andretti take the wheel, the scream of the racing engine splits the air, and Michigan International becomes racing's fastest track. Mario's fastest lap here last year stands as the quickest in IndyCar history. Ford Cosworth powered that lap, and Nigel Mansell's win here a year ago, and the pole here today. At the 500 at Indy, Mercedes-Benz was the engine to own. It produced raw speed, operating under USAC rules that allowed the purpose-built pushrod engine. Al Unser and Emerson Fittipaldi started in the front row. The two outdistanced their nearest rivals. Theirs was a race unto itself. Man couldn't catch Fittipaldi, but the Indianapolis wall did. No problem for Mercedes-Benz. Unser was in second and took the lead, the checkered flag, and Indy's $1 million. But for IndyCar sanctioned races, the Mercedes-Benz isn't legal. So the Penske team uses the Ilmor racing engine. It served them well. After punting his teammate, Paul Tracy took Detroit. Fittipaldi's Ilmor powered Penske won at the Phoenix Mile. And 4 times the Ilmor pushed Unser first across the finish line. Honda didn't make Indy, but is here making strides. A Honda gave Bobby Rahal a second 2 weeks ago. At Michigan, Ford powers the young contenders, like Jacques Villeneuve, second place at Indy, the leading rookie in the series. Robbie Gordon, Toronto's pole sitter. And Michael Andretti, twice a winner this year with more visions of victory. Ford Cosworth, Ilmor, and Honda, the power battle behind the men of the Michigan 500. Michigan International Speedway and its high banks as ESPN presents live our coverage of the Marlboro 500, what can in fact be the toughest day for the Indy cars. We're located about 70 miles west of Detroit in the beautiful Irish Hills of southern Michigan. These high banks can be very, very challenging for these cars and create some enormous energies. And there's a gigantic crowd here on hand to watch the Indy cars as they are ready to go to the line in the Marlboro 500. Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Page. And this race and its high banks always hold some surprises. There's always an unusual result here. And it's expected to be no different here today. Now, because of that and the fact that 2 weeks ago at Toronto, Al Unser Jr. scored no points at all, well, the points championship, the whole national championship, can be determined here. Now, this is a pivotal race. Emerson Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti closing in, as are the rest. So, in fact, at this race here today, we can see a complete change in the complexion of the PPG points battle. So, as we watch this race today, you're going to see an awful lot of surprises. And in that group of drivers challenging is the pole sitter here today, Nigel Mansell. He's with Gary.
And Paul, he's also the defending champion of this race. He qualified at nearly 234 miles per hour. We know of the great demands on the driver, on the race car at these speeds, on these banks. How tough is it physically to adapt to 500 miles, Nigel?
I think on a track like this, incredibly so. I mean, about twice as much as probably Indianapolis, because you know, the intensity of the lateral G you're pulling all the time on these banks.
The confidence factor for you and your team today going in?
As long as the car holds together and it runs okay, I'm optimistic, but it's going to be a long way.
Let's go to Jan Beekes in the middle of the front row.
Well, Gary, Raul Boisel has his best starting position here at Michigan. And Raul, why is it that you always run so quickly on the big tracks?
I have no idea. Maybe I think we have a good setup on the car. I enjoy very much. I have a lot of confidence to go fast, and we proved today. So we have a good setup in Indy. We carry through here with some changes for the bumpy track, and I feel comfortable, and I'm looking forward for the race.
Now, you've lost Mo Nunn, and he's next door to us working with Michael, but yet you out-qualified him.
Yeah, Maury is very good. So he put Michael in front. He wasn't doing so well, and we carry some of what we learned in Indy through here, and Dick Simon has a good way to set up a car for the oval, so it's working well.
Thank you, Raul. Let's go next door here to Gary Gerald.
So, Michael Andretti, you come in on a roll now, completing this fast front row. You won on the streets in the last race at Toronto. And we talk about this being a pivotal race in terms of the points championship. You vaulted to third with the win at Toronto. Is this the key, perhaps, of this season today for your championship hopes?
It's a big key, I think, because it's such a long race and it's a race of survival. And, not many of your fellow competitors are going to finish. So if you're lucky enough to be one of them, you're going to gain a lot of points on them. So it's a very big race for us.
Everybody agrees this is going to be some 500 miles, Paul.
And there are some terrific stories on the line here for the running of the Marlboro 500 at Michigan. 250 hard-fought laps. We'll be right back. It's a beautiful day. It's warming up here, but the crowd has settled in for our coverage live of the Marlboro 500. Now, we've indicated, Derek Daly, what a tough track this is. It can punish both man and machine.
This is officially the fastest racetrack in the world, and I'm not sure punishment is even strong enough a word to be used for what can happen here at Michigan. When you think about racing above 230 miles an hour average for 500 miles, the forces exerted through the cars and drivers are phenomenal. Parts of the cars can fatigue and break here without any warning. And winning drivers in the past, like Michael Andretti and the defending champion Nigel Mansell, have had to have been lifted from their cars. Such was the level of exhaustion. So at speeds like that, as you can imagine, the slightest miscue can spell disaster. And over the years, we have seen many, many Indy cars reduced to kit form against these very unforgiving Michigan walls.
Some of these accidents have been incredibly spectacular. Perhaps the most spectacular occurred a decade ago, and it involved Chip Ganassi and Al Unser Jr.
When Chip Ganassi and I got together in '84 on the backstretch coming off the 2, it was the first time I had lost control of my car at 200.
I think we were having a bad day to start with. The car was obviously a little loose, and basically we had a shock problem. We were bottoming the shock a lot. I really don't remember much.
Then when we slid down in the infield and hit the fence, then it was big.
I remember going down the front straightaway, and the next morning I woke up at the hospital.
Never forgotten it.
Because of situations like that, many of the crews here fear running at the Michigan 500. When we come back, it'll be time to start the engines. As the parade laps continue here at Michigan, let's take a look at the starting grid. On the pole, we'll look at the entire front row, as a matter of fact. On the pole is Nigel Mansell, his third pole of the year. Alongside Raul Boesel, who starts in the middle of the front row in both 500-mile races this year. Outside is Michael Andretti, only the second front row start this year for the two-time Michigan champion. In row 2, it's Robbie Gordon, the Toronto pole sitter, Mario Andretti, the '84 Michigan 500 winner, and Stefan Johansson in the fastest Penske chassis in today's field. Row 3 is Emerson Fittipaldi. His first win ever came here in '85. Teo Fabi, the '83 pole sitter, and Dominic Dobson, the fastest rookie qualifier in this field. In row 4, Jacques Villeneuve. Paul Tracy is in the middle, and to the outside is Scott Goodyear. In row 5, Adrian Fernandez. Al Unser Jr. with a surprising qualification run, and Marco Greco. Row 6, Mauricio Gugelmin, Jimmy Vasser, and Scott Sharp. In row number 7, Eddie Cheever replacing Brian Herta in A.J. Foyt's car. Hiro Matsushita and Buddy Lazier. The 8th row, Mike Groff, Willie T. Ribbs and Bobby Rahal. The 9th row, Mark Smith, Ari Lyondike and Ross Bentley. And alone in the 10th and final row is Jeff Wood. So now with a single PPG car in front of them, Jim Swindoll trying to get all the field to close up on the pace car. We're set to go on the pace lap now. The field aligned in rows of 3 for the first time since 1989. 250 laps, 500 miles. The fastest race ever run here by Allenser Jr. at 189.7 miles an hour. One car having a problem early on, ducked in and out of the pits. Did you see why he went in, Derek?
I didn't. Buddy Lazier in the Financial World Car. Quick stop, but everything looks to be in order. But he was at the back of the grid anyway, so it doesn't make any difference.
How nice they look in order. The former winners here in this race. Michael Andretti, of course, with 2 victories. The defending champion is Nigel Mansell, and Scott Goodyear, his first and only victory coming here. Now they begin to align. There are your rows as they sweep off the final turn and look for a green flag. We're underway. The Marlboro 500 is underway as Nigel Mansell holds his position at the front. Boiselle challenges to the high side. They're 3 abreast through the first and second turn. Look at Michael. He sweeps around Raoul Boiselle, ducks into second place. Down the backstretch, Michael chases Nigel. Raoul Boiselle closes in. First, second, and third run together. Mario Andretti slides into 4th place. Through the high banks of 3 and 4, Michael Andretti chases Nigel Mansell. And they stream across the line with Nigel Mansell leading the first lap and Mario Andretti making a move to the inside of Boiselle. So Mario moves to the inside, comes around Boiselle. Now he's forced back up high. He had third for a moment, but Boiselle takes it back.
And there is a certain prestige to leading laps here at the Michigan 500. Mansell led, but Michael, who's a master of the outside pass, got a poor start off the line. But boy, he made a daring pass around the outside. There are 3 racing grooves here that you can use at Michigan.
Mario Andretti here in 4th place has been sweeping up and down on the track. Is he looking for a groove that's going to work early as we watch Robbie Gordon?
You're watching Robbie Gordon, somebody who got a tremendous start from that second row, tried to come down the inside of Mansell, but Gordon knows he needs to settle down because he is extremely consistent so far this year, and he wants to add another 500 miles.
Emerson Fittipaldi back in 6th, 219 miles an hour for the first lap. There's 5th place, Robbie Gordon. He's chasing Mario Andretti, and there's our leader, Nigel Mansell. The defending champion here in the Marlboro 500. Remember last year, as Derek suggested, when the race was over, it was so brutal to Nigel that they literally had to lift him out of his race car at the end of the run. Michael Andretti on board. Matter of fact, when he won here, the same thing. He was totally exhausted. Could barely conduct any interviews.
And there's the bumpy section in turn 4 that the drivers have complained about. Quick look there as we go back to Teo Fabi in a battle with the Reynard of Adrian Fernandez.
Teo Fabi on the move as he just moved into 11th place coming around Adrian Fernandez. Allenser Jr. is sitting back there as well and looking for his move to come up to the front of the field. Now to the front of the field. This is the fight between Raoul Boiselle on the left and Mario Andretti on the right. They're fighting it out for 3rd place as Mario seems to have found the line that he likes.
Absolutely furious during official practice here. Mario could not get his pop-off valve to seat properly. Could not get the type of horsepower he thought he deserved from that Ford engine and was furious and didn't think he had a fair run with the handling of his car in qualifying. But he is running well in the opening laps here.
All day today, this will be a comparison of the power plants. As you watch Raoul Boiselle, Robbie Gordon moves to the high side and right past Mario Andretti.
Brave move by Robbie Gordon. He has practiced that here all weekend. He said, my favorite groove is high on the racetrack. My car feels good there. And look, he pulls out 7 car lengths just coming off one corner. We're now on board with Flash Gordon, Robbie Gordon.
Robbie Gordon very definitely on a charge. He runs down the backstretch, setting up Raoul Boiselle just ahead.
See, he just had a little look at the left side mirror there to see where Mario was. Here's the new surface. Now it comes to the old surface and let it drift high all the way to the wall on the outside.
Jan Vika's Robbie Gordon is really on a charge.
Well, keep in mind, Paul, that they made a commitment that they were going to work on this car here this weekend in race trim only. The only change that Robbie Gordon has made the whole time he's been here is to change the ride height by 8/1000ths of an inch. They did not go for qualifying. This car can run as fast in qualifying, in the race, I should say, as it did in qualifying.
Well, he darted for the inside. They're looking to take advantage of the slower cars. The field already overcoming some of the slower cars in the field, but it was not to be. In fact, it put Robbie back a little bit in his continuing battle for third with Raul Boesel.
Maintaining momentum is a big key here through the banks and down these long back straights. Gordon had a charge and a run on Boesel. Now he hangs back. This is where he passed Mario. Obviously, his car is very good into turn 3.
Already 8 laps into the record book. They're averaging 222.8 miles an hour. Nigel Mansell has a 4-second lead over second place Michael Andretti. There's third place Raul Boesel. And Robbie Gordon continues to try and pursue there, while Mario is set up about 100 yards back from Robbie Gordon. Then Emerson Fittipaldi, then Paul Tracy. So the two Penske's have climbed their way up through the field. Stefan Johansson is 8th. 9th is Scott Goodyear, and Jacques Villeneuve is in 10th. Go to the pits, get an update on Boesel from Gary Gerald.
First radio conversation to the crew, Paul, indicates that Raul Boesel, running third, has begun to pick up a bit of a push and is now being pressured by Robbie Gordon.
You saw him dart down to the inside going into 3. Now you're on board the nose of Bobby Rahal, who very early here on lap number 10 is making an unscheduled stop in the pits. Could it be more trouble for the Honda engine?
They've had lots of trouble with the Honda here this weekend. For some reason, it does not like running on the high bank. They blew 3 engines before qualifying ever started on Saturday afternoon.
We continue to watch this battle for third place as Robbie Gordon still tries to close in. And backmarker traffic very much a factor now. What a spectacular view. That's mounted on the left side pod, just ahead of the left rear wheel on Robbie Gordon's car. Raul Boesel just ahead. He comes around to Matsushita.
And you need confidence in the people you race against to pass somebody within inches on that high outside groove as Jeff Wood with the Euro Motorsport car into the pits first, had a black flag for spraying fluids on the racetrack, and now he comes back on again.
Started in last place here, rolling back onto the track. Apparently they didn't find anything serious. There's Bobby Rahal climbing out, Gary Gerald.
He is coming out of the car, Paul, and we just checked with Carl Hogan as the crew had peeled off the rear body work, and we're looking around the power plant, and it is a power problem. Carl said that the car just stopped on him. That was the only word they had from the radio. Rahal just shakes his head in frustration as he comes now over the pit wall.
Boy, what terrible disappointment that must be. 2 weeks ago, the Honda performing so well for him, and Toronto gave him a podium finish. Carl Hogan there, co-owner with Bobby Rahal. Back to the front of the field now. Nigel Mansell is the leader. He's now pulled out 5.5 seconds over second place Michael Andretti and begins to handle up some traffic as he comes alongside Scott Sharp. So Nigel Mansell looking very much like last year where he led 222 laps. Will he do it again? We'll be right back. Back at the Marlboro 500, there are the intervals in the top 6 drivers in the field, and you can see that Paul Tracy has gotten around Emerson Fittipaldi and into 6th place, but perhaps most important is the fact that Robbie Gordon has finally resolved that battle with Raul Boesel and is solidly in 3rd place now as you ride with Robbie Gordon. There's Mario Andretti closing on Raul Boesel. This is a battle for 4th. Boesel, the pass was really almost a non-pass. It was almost like Boesel slowed down a little bit when Robbie Gordon went by. Let's watch this one.
Well, Mario has been taking this high line all through the race so far. Look at the sandwich job here, but Mario almost makes the pass Boesel. Not quite.
Let me assure you, that takes courage. They're averaging 221.4 miles an hour still.
You can clearly see Mario and Boesel are in 2 different racing grooves. Mario is high,
which is the longer way around, but you can keep your foot down sometimes when the car begins to skate, and it does skate sometimes over these bumps.
Derek, as they encounter these slower cars, is turbulence a key factor for both of them?
Turbulence is only a key if the traffic gets in your way. Most cars we've seen so far pick a center groove and stay there. That's what the leading cars want them to do. You never change your line to allow a quicker car to pass on a super speedway because you take the faster driver by surprise.
Well, so far now with 19 laps complete, the battles have all involved the number 5 car of Raul Boesel, now being chased by Mario Andretti. You can see the comparison of their speed on the last lap. Raul has had a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th place here. First today, perhaps. Nothing for Bobby Rahal, Gary Gerald.
Bobby, was there any warning whatsoever?
No, the engine just quit on me going on the back straight. I don't know what. I mean, everything was running normally at the time, and it must be like a fuel pump or something, I guess. They tried to start it in here, but it wouldn't start, so I don't know what went wrong with it.
Big week coming up, because I know now you're supposed to test Tuesday and Wednesday at Mid-Ohio with a new Honda power plant, a new version.
Well, we had a little disappointment this weekend. Aside from this, that engine now is very late, so we're going to have to make do with what we've got. But, yeah, it's really too bad because Miller and Motorola, all of our spots have been very patient. We think we can have a good car in Mid-Ohio, so I think we can be more competitive. But the ovals definitely have not been our friends with this engine this year.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Paul? Sad for Bobby Rahal, as now you're on board with the race leader, Nigel Mansell, getting that left side camera. If you compare, as you watch these onboard shots, consider the clouds are running level. That'll give you a real good idea of how much they really roll into the bank as they come into the corner. We look at the running order at the completion of the 21st lap.
18 degrees does not sound a lot, but if you try and walk up that banking, you would be astonished just how hard a job it is to walk up to the concrete wall. But this gives you an idea how bumpy this racetrack can be because it shocks. Oh, a tire blow.
Gordon's in trouble. He holds it off the wall thus far. Oh, what a scary moment for Gordon. Look at that thing peeling off. Yellow flag, of course, comes out. Still a very dangerous moment for the driver that was running so well in 3rd place. 2 weeks ago at Toronto, very much the same thing. He was the pole sitter, had tire problems, ran off the end of the course.
And that may be the scariest moment that Robbie Gordon has ever had on a super speedway. Remember, when the car is running well, you never go below 225 miles an hour. Then you have a tire blow.
23rd lap, the leader, Nigel Mansell, is into the pits. I would say this would be a little early, so an interesting strategy being played by the Newman Haas team, at least with Nigel Mansell. The stop itself is routine, though we saw some work from this onboard camera occurring at the back of the car. Not really sure what that is. Look at him skate as he comes out, 11.5 seconds. Nigel Mansell is out. Fittipaldi is in as well. So a lot of cars deciding lap 23, 24 is a good position, Gary Gerald.
Yeah, Paul, it's interesting. 2 of the Penske cars are in for service and are ready to leave. We're watching Fittipaldi go out. Tracy missed his pit. That's one of the dangers of this super speedway. You run 220 out there. You've got a 110 limit in here. He was too fast, and he missed his pit. Had to go around again.
Well, Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, you saw Scott Sharp, Michael Andretti still out on the circuit.
And we saw an adjustment in the front wings of Emerson's car. They turned the screws down, which takes away front downforce. So Emerson was obviously not happy with the handling during that front run. But you must try and take advantage of yellow flag conditions in these 500-mile races because it can be a huge advantage.
So we are under yellow for the first time here today. The question will be, when the tire went, did it do any other damage to Robbie Gordon's car? He did drive it back to the pit. Back at the Marlboro 500, still under yellow, but here's a surprise. Nigel Mansell into the pits for a second time. They go to work on the front of the car. Down under well beyond the suspension members with regard to the shock absorbers and everything. What is all the way down there? Robbie Gordon's car also in the pits. Apparently there is some damage there that they're going to have to work with. Jan Beekes?
Well, I can update on both of those, Paul. First of all, Nigel Mansell just radioed in and said, if this car, if we can't fix it, I can't drive it. They're trying to work in the shock absorber area. With Robbie Gordon, he's been in the pits once. They replaced the tire that blew. Right now, they're beating with a hammer the front steering rod. It was bent. That means the toe out was off on the car. Robbie Gordon now pulling away, and Gary has more. Gary?
The report we get, Jan, is that it was a stuck throttle, and I can't imagine anything other than fire that would be a bigger nightmare for a race driver. Mansell is now engaged. The clutch is rolled away. He'll go back out to try it again.
Well, that confirms something. I thought that they were well forward of the shock absorbers. A stuck throttle, my goodness. Now, let's take a look at Robbie Gordon's situation. That's what set up this yellow flag here, the second one of the day. Look at Gordon's right front tire. Just suddenly, bam, and look at him. Hold on to it.
And remember, this is along the front straight here. There was only a gentle curve. If that had happened, what's the explosion? Bang, right there, explodes and takes the cap almost all the way off that tire. That was a one-way trip to the concrete wall for Robbie Gordon if he was in turns 1 or 3.
Watch that right front. And when it lets go, he very gently keeps the car on line. You can't touch the brakes or anything at that point.
Yeah, you have to use finesse. Right as he goes by our booth, just watch.
And what it has managed to do is cause some damage to that steering arm in the front. You can see it bent there, Jan Beekes.
Well, what we're trying to take a look at here is the tire that actually blew. You can see it blew to smithereens, and obviously they're trying to get that tire away as quickly as possible because they want to get it back to Goodyear. There's a couple reasons why they want to take that away. Obviously, it's not great advertising, but also these tires are very secret. They check every tire in and every tire out because they're obviously anticipating Firestone coming here. Gary has more up on pit lane. Gary?
And Nigel Mansell had come back in after one lap. He goes back out. What they've done is to try to get to the throttle cable in a couple of different areas, or the linkage, we should say, and they got it engaged, and then they sprayed it with a lubricant, trying to make sure that it functions properly. Mansell back out now, and we'll get his next test as he goes toward turns 1 and 2.
In the meantime, the Walker Racing team is going to work on that right front steering link on Robbie Gordon's car. Apparently, it was bent too much, and they're changing it now.
Thankfully, they elected to change that because with the fatigue levels that you have here, that was already bent and stressed and strained, so a new one is so much better.
The Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron is floating overhead, providing aerial views of the Marlboro 500. The Goodyear blimp has been flying over major events for 61 years. We are under yellow here on the 28th lap. The yellow came out when Robbie Gordon had his problem with that blown tire. They're checking the course totally for debris. And Michael Andretti, after the stops, picks up the lead. Back at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan International as the PPG pace car leads the field around. They begin to pick up the speed. Derek, what could have happened to that tire? The third car, by the way, here is the leader, Michael Andretti, when they come back to green.
We have had an unusual number of punctures this weekend, and I went over to Goodyear yesterday, and most of them are caused by debris on the racetrack. Bozell comes down the inside, has a little look at Michael. But most of the tire cuts are caused by the cars picking up debris on the racetrack. Believe it or not, the sweeper was at one time, and it dropped one of its bristles, which punctured a tire. So the sweeper out there trying to clean the track, in fact, created a small piece of debris. But we are in a fight right here with Bozell and Michael.
Raul Bozell charges on Michael Andretti. Mario Andretti runs in third. Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. are up running fourth and fifth now. But here is the fight, and it's for the lead. Two distinctly different lines here, two different chassis.
Michael, another driver who likes that high line during qualifying. Although he wasn't on the pole, he was absolutely flat out all the way around. He said what he liked about this car most of all was its handling on full tanks in race conditions, and Tracy is in the pit lane.
Paul Tracy, remember, he overran his pit earlier. He's back in the pit lane again. He has not been handling well, was running in 15th position when he headed down into the pits. Michael Andretti, the only two-time winner here, is the Penske team working on Paul Tracy's car. And again, it's something in the front end. They're a little higher up, working in that shock absorber area.
You stress and you strain everything so much on these race cars. Millions of dollars go into the preparation, and something small, which is probably what happened to Tracy, suddenly calls an end to your day.
Well, another example of that. Mike Groff has had a clutch problem. He is out of the run. So both of the Ray Hall Hogan cars, both of the Honda power plants, are out of the race.
Back straight, almost 240 miles an hour and flat into 3.
Update on Paul Tracy's problem, Gary Gerald.
Paulie complaining of a problem that the car doesn't feel right at the front, and the reason being he hit a wheel when he came in on one of those pit attempts. I'm not sure it was the one where he missed, which may have been a reason he missed, or if it was the later routine stop. But he did strike a wheel, and he says the front end just doesn't feel right. He's not comfortable at speed out here. The crew is checking. They're shaking their head. I don't think they found a specific problem thus far. Now they're calling for a full 4-tire wheel change.
Battle for fifth. Emerson Fittipaldi, Adrian Fernandez closing. This young driver, Fernandez, is looking very strong. How would you like to take on somebody like Fittipaldi, the first track that he won on, and you're new to this surface?
And look at this, in the draft under Emerson, slingshots by. They both have the Ilmor D engine, phase 3, but Fernandez blows by the Penske.
I'll tell you what, he almost misjudged that. That was real close when he darted out. He got the toe off of Fittipaldi's car and down the backstretch, looking very solid. That's Fernandez into 5th place.
Great run for Fernandez. Very big name in Mexico, but Mansell is still in deep trouble, and Jan Beekes is there.
Well, the one thing I can tell you, Derek, is that they had him shut down the engine. That means they're going to make a big change here. You can see Tom Works trying to get down inside there to get to the throttle area like Gary was telling us about. They're also going to take off the engine cover because they have to look at this cable both on the front and the rear. We don't know if it's a linkage, we don't know if it's cable, but right now this crew has both ends covered.
I don't think I'd like to try any place with the throttle sticking. Here it might be an advantage, though. Just lock it down and hold on. Pit stops might be a little difficult.
Exactly. It scares you too much. But Mansell's chances of winning 2 in a row are now over. It becomes a long, laborious day for him. Because remember, he does not like this racetrack, particularly turn 4. In fact, Friday, he walked away from his car, would not run it in the last session. And this morning, he only ran a short number of laps because he just doesn't like it here.
The 12 car, Jacques Villeneuve, now behind Fittipaldi. Scott Goodyear lined up behind him. Villeneuve running in 7th position. Young rookie with such a great job at the Indianapolis 500. Rookie of the year there, leads in the points for the IndyCar Rookie of the Year. And he closes on Fittipaldi. Now, is that an indication of some strategy on Fittipaldi's part? Second guy that we've seen be able to close in?
It might be an indication, as we watch a quick glimpse of Scott Goodyear, it might be an indication that Emerson, the changes he made in the last pit stop, he doesn't like them as we go back to our battle for second place. Again, it's Mario and Boesel.
Boesel currently in second, Mario third. Boesel has been in the thick of the fight the entire day. Tracy just ahead there, shaking his car down. He sees the faster cars coming. But he tends to stay with him, so maybe his problem has been repaired. Update on Nigel Mansell, Jan.
Well, the Cosworth engineers have found the problem with the Ford power plant. It turns out they took the pop-off valve off. They went down inside the engine, and there's actually a butterfly inside the engine that's stuck. They're trying to spray some fluid in there and actually use the wood part of a hammer to try and close it. Oh, right now they get the signal. Nigel's day is over. They cannot fix it here.
So powerful here a year ago, made his strong charge from the 28th lap on to the finish. A key ingredient in his championship and his first and only 500 win. But Nigel Mansell, the defending IndyCar champion, climbs out of his car and sits down, I think just thankful that he's got all of his parts with him. Nigel Mansell, an early retiree. He's with Jan Beekes.
Nigel, that was a very scary moment for you. The throttle stuck open, did it?
That's the scariest moment I've had in my whole career. I mean, we're doing 240 in the slipstream going down into one, and the throttle just stuck wide open, and I had to jam the brakes on, undip the clutch, and try and get around the corner. And I was trying to do that for a few laps, but there's no way. And the boys have done a fantastic job all weekend, and Newman Haas team's gone real well. And as you can see, we're in the lead, and the car was running fantastic. And then just one lap, and it just stuck open like a switch.
Nigel, tell us, try to describe for us how tough it is physically out there for you.
It's bad enough. You're pulling a lot of lateral G. We're averaging 227 on full tanks. And, you know, you need the throttle control in the corners to balance the car. And when it sticks wide open and, you know, you got to try and get around the corner, I'll tell you, it's not nice.
Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you.
On board Robbie Gordon now. Remember, he had his problem. He's trying to carve his way up through the field, but he has a long drive ahead. Still, he's running at speed with the leaders, so it gets us a good idea from the Ford Electronics of exactly what the performance of this car is.
Watch the speed climb. 231, 3. Just off the throttle to balance it a little bit. That's what Mansell couldn't do. So he was on a direction towards the concrete wall when he got that scare. But Mansell mentioned G-forces, lateral Gs. They pull almost 4 Gs lateral, that's sideways Gs. But the banking creates almost 20 vertical Gs downwards, such is the force. What does that mean? Well, it means 20 times the weight of the car, which is 1,500 pounds, is acting downwards. That is the type of load the driver must absorb here for 500 miles.
Robbie Gordon is running in 14th, a lap behind the leader, as Raul Boisel has to work his way through traffic with Mario Andretti still very much in pursuit.
Mario, the master of 500-mile races. So many times, so many years he's been in them, hasn't won many, but he knows to stay in touch, because you have to get 450 miles safely under your belt before you really think about a sprint. And he changes his line and comes way down low under Dominic Dobson, and then tries to make a swoop on Fabi.
Ooh, a lot of traffic ahead. Dobson, Fabi just ahead of him. He comes down low. He really has to judge now. Jimmy Vasser, the Conseco car, is in the pits. This would be unscheduled as well. Started off the season very strong. Look at the back end. Nothing wrong there. Gearbox engine.
Something smoky. Vasser was one of those drivers who experienced a rear suspension failure on the Reynard, and it did give him a bit of a jolt, which took him a few laps to get back up to speed from, but he was running in 8th. Good 10th place, but obviously it's all come to naught for Vasser.
With the yellow, our average speed of the race was dropped off to 183.1 miles an hour as Jimmy Vasser looks at the mount that could carry him no further than the 50th lap. The leader, Michael Andretti, now working lap 51. Boy, look at the heat pouring off those brakes.
Serious overheating. Can't speculate what that could be. Brakes binding. Outside drive shaft gone too dry, which obviously it will only break if you don't stop or get forced to make a stop.
Mario Andretti back working his high line, temporarily out of contact in his battle with Raul Boisel. That's Marco Greco sitting just ahead of him. And he's got Marco sitting there. He's got to figure out with these slower cars, where is the best place to pass, both in terms of high or low, but how do I pace myself into the pass?
And again, you have to have confidence that the driver you're passing sees you. Now, Greco has taken the low line. Mario followed him for almost a full lap and then moves to the high line. The veterans will tell the new guys, never, ever change your line. Let us do the work, let us make the pass.
And there's what Mario lost to Raul Boisel in having to handle up those slower cars. It's not necessarily logical that Raul Boisel got through them in the same time. He may have encountered them at an entirely different part of the race course. Let's go to the pits. Gary Gerald.
Paul, it's interesting. We talked about that problem that many of the chassis had with the strengthening of the wishbone mounting at the start of the show. One of the offshoots of that change, with the extra support in there, it does slightly impact the handling of the car. Dick Simon says that's why Bosell picked up the push. They made one change on his pit stop. The car is better, but it's still pushing. He says with our second stop, we think we can get it perfect, and they look for Raul to then mount a bigger charge.
Watching Al Unser Jr. now, he runs in 4th place and is beginning to whittle away on 3rd place Mario Andretti.
Al Unser Jr. had this crowd on its feet yesterday. He was spectacular in the IROC race, managed to beat everybody, didn't win the championship, and now he lined up to do exactly what we saw Mario do, pulls out to pass Marco Greco, who also is having one of his better runs this afternoon.
But the pacing a little bit better here for little Al. He came up and countered the car and was just that quickly past him, while Mario had to wait a little bit.
The feeling is that these Penske cars do not have the ultimate speed to beat a Lola in a straight fight or a Reynard. Unser Jr. is in championship winning mode. He wants reliability and just keep pounding out these laps, lap after lap.
Well, Jr. was closing on Mario, but in the past couple of laps, despite the fact that he had a clean pass on Greco, he's actually fallen back about 7/10 of a second. So Al Unser Jr. still has some work to do. Let's go pit side and on again.
Well, Jimmy Vasser has gotten out of the car, and Jimmy, you ran to the top 10, and we saw that smoke. What put you out?
Well, we thought we had a tire going down right rear. I was out there and started getting a little loose, like I wanted to swap ends, and so we came in for a tire change, and turns out it was something in the suspension, or probably a wheel bearing or something.
So that was 2 scary moments for you here this weekend.
Well, that's racing, you know. You just got to get back in there, and you gotta trust your car. But when things happen like that, you know, it makes you take a deep breath and and just thank the Lord that you don't hit the fence, because it's pretty fast around here.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
While we were listening to Jimmy Vasser, the fastest lap in the race has been set. Michael Andretti at 227.8 miles an hour as we watch Jacques Villeneuve as he continues to fly up through this field and sits now in 5th.
And don't underestimate what Jimmy Vasser said. He takes a deep breath and thanks the Lord that he made it. That gives you an idea just how knife edge and finger tingling it is to run on the ragged edge here at these speeds at Michigan.
58 laps complete by the leader, Michael Andretti. He has a 9-second lead over 2nd place, Raul Boesel. Mario Andretti in his last 500-mile race is still very much in the fight. Well, some historic moments coming at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Brickyard pole qualifying at Indy will witness more than 82 entrants at the first ever NASCAR Brickyard 400. ESPN's Bob Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, and Benny Parsons will be hosting qualifying Thursday and Friday live beginning at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan. You ride with the leader, Michael Andretti, as he reels off lap after lap at better than 228 miles an hour. He has a 13-second lead over 2nd place, Raul Boesel. The early leader was Nigel Mansell, who had a problem with his throttle system, actually a butterfly in the engine that stuck the engine wide open at top revs and took him out of the race. Robbie Gordon was up in the fight. He had a right front tire blow. He got it back to the pits. They changed the tire, did some work on the car, and he is back in the race, though not yet in the fight. Right now it's Raul Boesel, who has been battling all day, sitting in 2nd place, and Mario Andretti is having a great day running in 3rd.
And great pictures here as we look over Michael Andretti's shoulder. Look at his hand. Pushes with his right and pulls down with his left. How fast is Michael running? He just set fastest lap of the race at 228.4, which is almost 3 miles an hour quicker than Boesel and Mario is running at this particular time. So Michael in control with sheer speed.
Pit stops do any time now. The Gallus team for Adrian Fernandez is already begun to lay out their equipment, as there's Richard Buck, the crew chief for Al Unser Jr., and little Al is in from 4th place, Gary Gerald.
Indeed he is. The man has had such a sensational season. Has won one time here at Michigan in 500-mile competition. getting the full treatment. The car's been working beautifully. No changes, just full fuel and fresh rubber. Now he's rolling, Paul. 13.5 seconds.
Emphasis on the word fresh rubber. Those look like brand new tires.
They were indeed brand new tires as Mario comes down.
Third place, Mario Andretti. He's been battling most of the day with Raul Boisel. He rolls into the pits and then rolls past. And look, with Fernandez in trouble, he came out, he had a fuel spill, a splash, and a bit of a fire. Fernandez, who was running so well, as high as 5th place. They got a lot of water on him right away. Now, water will dilute the alcohol fuel, but there's still more trouble burning in there. Let's not forget that they had a full pit fire here in the early years. We're under yellow on the course. And Michael Andretti against the wall. Michael Andretti grabs the wall. So in just a few seconds, we told you there's surprises that lurk in these high banks. Look at the camera. It's now pointed down and to the side on Michael Andretti's car. So Adrian Fernandez with a fire on his car in the pits. They go yellow, though, for Michael Andretti, who catches the wall. And Michael Andretti's crew was sitting there waiting for him. Michael climbs over the wall, apparently unhurt, hopefully so. There's a safety crew right there. And some of the crew members from the Gallus team, when the fuel splashed, let's see what happened, Derek. There's Michael.
He's in a traffic jam. This is turn 1. He goes into 1. All is clear. Remember, the fastest car on the racetrack. He gets up behind, and then something. That was most unusual. We saw
he was up behind Paul Tracy and just suddenly bobbled. Could it be the turbulence back there?
I don't think it would happen that fast. Whatever it was, the fastest man in the race in total control. All you can see here, what happened?
Car, the hose just ripped off at the nozzle. Well, we don't know if that happened before or after. Mario Andretti's in the pits. Look at all the water from the Fernandez situation.
We've seen Mario do a 180 trying to exit the pits in the past on dry pavement. Now you better take it real slowly.
I think he went to the front.
Almost too slowly.
Well, under yellow, no need to hurry. You might as well be careful. Down in Adrian Fernandez's pit, Gary Gerald.
Rick Gallus, unfortunately, you're no stranger. I remember Cleveland a few years ago, and your crew went through this. Can you give us a quick assessment here? Have you accounted for everybody? Are we all right?
Yeah, we're okay, I think, Gary. So that's the main thing. We're okay. And the fire people did a really good job. And I'm real happy, and I appreciate what they did to take care of my guys. And I don't know exactly what happened, but fortunately, no one got hurt.
Now, we see the nozzle was sticking out of the side of the fuel cell there of the car. Did everything just disengage? Do you have any idea?
No, we pulled out too early. And I don't know really what happened, why we did it, but we weren't through fueling.
The important thing, obviously, we're happy to hear everybody's okay. Thanks.
I just want to thank the fire people.
Absolutely. They did an incredible job, Paul. I mean, it was amazing.
The fire crews have always been courageous here. Here is Michael Andretti's situation, Derek.
Now we know he's in traffic. That's Paul Tracy down to the inside. Goes into 1. Well. We can see. Whoa. I think he locks at right front and just destroys our onboard camera. Thankfully, Michael wasn't hurt, but the fastest car in the racetrack now gets grabbed by the monster behind these concrete walls.
Looked like the closure just was too fast. Michael Andretti brushed the brakes, took him up to the wall. Eddie Cheever, replacing Brian Herta, driving for A.J. Foyt, has rolled to a stop. We are still under yellow, though, from Michael Andretti's accident. And Raul Boisel is the leader of the race under yellow. Today's coverage from Michigan International, racing's fastest track, is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life. Eddie Cheever's car being pushed back toward the garage area. Apparently that's not going to be a fix on that car. On board Robbie Gordon, who is still a lap down from the leader of the race, Raul Boisel. But how about this for a top of the order? Boissel, Villeneuve, Al Unser Jr., first, second, and third. Mario Andretti is fourth. Emerson Fittipaldi is fifth. The Penske cars with a less than spectacular qualifying situation here, but two of them are up and running in the top five. But is it the first win for Raul Boissel today? Imagine he hopes so. 74 laps of the 250 lap scheduled distance complete. Race average with two yellows, 170 miles an hour as we go back to green. Boissel down in that order. There he is down on the low side. Villeneuve comes up high, trying to come around one of the Pac West cars, looking for an opportunity.
And you caught a glimpse at the restart of Robbie Gordon, who's already one lap down. He needs to make a full lap before he even thinks about getting another lap back on Boissel to get back in the fight.
Young Jean Villeneuve very much in pursuit now, trying to carve through traffic as Boissel closes on Teo Fabi. He's got Goodyear in there as well. Villeneuve still about 8 cars back. There's Stefan Johansson closing in on the 17 car of Dominic Dobson, but Jack makes his move to the high side.
And it was a decisive move. Johansson, who had out-qualified all the factory Penske's, ran very well in qualifying. Not on the pace here. Villeneuve was superb on Friday. Oh, he's in the wall!
Oh, no! You know, not dissimilar, though different placement of the cars from the accident involving Michael Andretti. He'd just come around 7th place Stefan Johansson, skates up to the wall and grabs it. He had such a great run at the Indianapolis 500. Rookie of the year there, leading the rookie points. He's cut off the whole right-hand side of the car. He appears to be okay. He's moving around in the cockpit, so that's good news. Once again, the engineering of the cars has really protected the driver here.
And now, Robbie Gordon, one of our early pace setters in particular. If Boissel is picked up by the pace car, Gordon goes all the way around and makes up most of the lap, but he needs one more. It also allows Mario, Al Jr., Emerson, and Goodyear to catch up behind those leaders. We could see this coming. He turns into 3 and out of the groove and smacks and destroys the right side of the car, but hopefully he is okay.
He is traveling at that time across that 780 feet of new asphalt that Penske Speedway's laid down there. Safety crew is keeping Jack in the car, and I assume that this is just precautionary because he was moving around fine at first, but no, they've got the cutting tools on the right side.
He may be pinned in that car. The right front wheel, very often in that side impact, comes in through the monocoque and traps the driver.
Puts you in mind almost of Brian Herta's accident at Toronto.
Watch him go into turn 3, and as he goes onto the new surface, there is a puff of something comes from the right side of Villeneuve's car. Watch what happens right here. Here's the surface change. Oh, I think he got a puncture. I think he had a puncture. He certainly had a mechanical failure of some sort that sent Jacques Villeneuve very, very hard into that outside wall.
No question at the right rear set down. Here's another angle of it. Watch the right rear.
Very clear in that shot. Something broke in the right rear of that car. The top hits the ground, sits down, and Villeneuve, unfortunately, has no control and just clouts that outside wall so hard when you're running at speeds of
IndyCar officials are saying that he has non-threatening injuries. I don't see any injuries at all, so that's good news. As Dr. Terry Trammell, look at him. He gives a wave to the crowd. Dr. Trammell walks him away. Let's go to Jerry Gerald.
Well, here's some more good news. Michael Andretti, after a quick stop at the infield hospital, okay. Can you tell us now what happened? Because it looked like you had everybody covered today, Michael.
Yeah, we were really hooked up, and we made a change after the first pit stop, and after that we were just gone. You know, I picked up about 5 miles an hour, and I just was coming up on, I think it was Emerson and Robbie Gordon, and they were in a battle, and I guess it looked like Robbie went up in front of Emerson and made Emerson get on the brakes, and I had a head of steam coming behind him, and I locked up my front to miss him and put me up into the gray. and then I was up in the marbles and I couldn't turn, and it just hit the wall. Another 2 feet wider, and I probably would have made it.
So many times we talk about the emotions of the up and down, the elation of the last race in Toronto, back in the championship points hunt, and here you are now, and in great disappointment. But you're not alone. A lot of people having problems here.
Yeah, they are, but you see the Penske's are running pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah. And with that little gleam in his eye, oh boy, it tells a lot. Let's go to Jan.
Well, Gary, in the Jacques Villeneuve incident, we need to look at why he was able to get out of that car without necessarily the same kind of work as with the Lola. As this front suspension gets pushed back into the car itself, there's something different in a Reynard than you have in a Lola. If we go inside the cockpit, we have an opportunity to see on their gear shift, they use an actual cable instead of linkage. This is what's been hurting the drivers and breaking legs and pelvises here recently, because the Lola has an actual metal linkage as opposed to a flexible cable. That really helped in the case of Jacques Villeneuve.
By the way, speaking of injuries, a couple of updates as they still pick up debris here. Here are the cars that are out of race thus far. Some fairly major names. The early leader, Mansell. The fire on Fernandez's car. Both of the Ray Hall Hogan's car. Fernandez and their crew member have both been treated and released right here at the track medical facility. And most recently, Michael Andretti, a leader of the race at the time, and Jacques Villeneuve. And let's just update on Brian Herta, who is out of the hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana, and going through therapy there. Alessandro Zampedri was involved in a practice accident here. Possible fracture to his pelvis and a bruised liver. That's why he's not in the run here in Michigan. Tonight, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Oakland A's, led by power hitter Ruben Sierra, travel to Detroit to meet with home run hitter Cecil Fielder with 25 this season. Sunday Night Baseball from Tiger Stadium tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern. Under yellow at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan. It is our third of the day. This time it's Jacques Villeneuve. He's with Gary Gerald.
Getting ready to go into the medical center for a checkup. You appear to be okay, Jacques. Can you tell us about how this set up and what happened?
Yeah, getting into the corner, I don't know if it's the rear that collapsed or something went under the car, but the left front of the car went up in the air and just went straight in the wall, so I don't really know what happened. But the monocoque came on me, and I was stuck. My hand was stuck in between the monocoque and the steering, and my suit was inside the carbon, and so I took all the impact with the shoulder and everything.
Did you see the wheel that came back over your head?
No, I didn't see that. I don't know. I don't really know what happened exactly. I just know the front left went up in the air.
Now, yesterday you had a problem with the wheel bearing that went out on the car, and also there was the problem, the fix from Friday involving the rear suspension. Are you concerned that it could have been some type of structural failure?
I don't think it was that, because if it was something like that, I would have made a spin and lost the rear end. So I don't think it was something like that. Just maybe something bent underneath and raised the front. I don't know what it is.
Well, a memorable first visit to the banks of Michigan. We're just delighted that you're okay.
Well, thank you.
All right. He heads in for further treatment with Dr. Olvey and company here, and we'll send it back to Paul.
That's his first DNF since his accident at Phoenix.
And I just have a quick comment to make about Michael Andretti. So we know he jumped on the brakes. But consider this, all the front-running cars here run carbon fiber brakes on this particular racetrack, a super speedway. Michael probably used his left foot. When you stab the brakes with carbon fiber, they bite so severely, watch it here, instantly smokes those front tires for an instant, and that's it. You lose your steering, you lose your line, you're out of the groove, and you smack the concrete. That may have contributed to him hitting the wall.
So under unusual circumstances, two leaders of this race, Nigel Mansell and now Michael Andretti out, and one of the contenders, Jacques Villeneuve, also out. We are still under our third yellow. Many surprises here today for this gigantic crowd that sits under a beautiful blue sky. Some clouds up there, but it's nice and warm. Track temperature is about 110 degrees when they started this race. We are under our third yellow of the day. You know, these IndyCar safety teams and crews, they do a lot of work throughout the year to make sure that these cars are safe, but they go to great lengths to ensure the safety of the drivers most effectively. Gary Gerald explains IndyCar's state-of-the-art emergency facilities.
When an on-track incident occurs, there's an immediate response from at least one of 3 safety vehicles manned by a doctor and 3 paramedics who are also skilled as firefighters and extrication specialists. The safety trucks carry hydraulic extrication equipment that can be used to free drivers trapped in a damaged race car, as well as chemical fire retardant and water. Video cameras atop the safety trucks record the response and rescue efforts for later reassessment and evaluation. From the incident scene, a driver is transported to the IndyCar Medical Center, a 40-foot coach that serves as a small hospital emergency room on wheels. Here, orthopedic and trauma surgeons continue efforts to stabilize the condition of the injured party while evaluating needs for possible off-site treatment. The medical staff has at its disposal X-ray equipment, ventilation devices to control breathing, defibrillators and cardiac monitors, IV fluids, chest tubes, and advanced cardiac life support drugs. Virtually everything you'd find in a hospital emergency room to handle anything from minor injuries to full trauma. Should further treatment be necessary, helicopter transport is available to airlift the injured driver to a local medical center. IndyCar officials are justifiably proud of their safety team, and plans are being finalized for an expanded state-of-the-art medical facility 5 times larger than the existing version.
You won't find better dedication than you find on the safety crews of the IndyCars. There is that safety coach sitting back in the garage area here.
I've been there. I've used every one of those facilities. You can't imagine what a comfort it is to see the faces that you recognize of the safety team, because you know you're in good hands, particularly because you're normally in deep, deep trouble when they arrive.
We're a little over a lap from a green flag if everybody gets back on station in terms of the safety crews. They are lined up, of course, behind the PPG pace car in an order with Raul Boesel, the leader of the race, followed by Mario Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, Scott Goodyear, Dominic Dobson. There's Dick Simon. He's the car owner on Raul's car. Never had a win either when he was as a driver or as a car owner. Years and years in this sport, over 25 years. And Dick Simon could be looking at his first win today, but remember, we are only on the 88th lap of 250. 19 cars are still in the fight. There is a very long way to go. And in just the 88 laps thus far, we've seen so many surprises. Look at how emphatic Dick is.
And Dick barks out the orders to everybody else on the team. They brought a new sponsor here this weekend, Allen Tool. What a ride they're having. You think Dick is trying hard to get his point across? His wife Diane sits beside him, and she calls lots of the pit stops. And Roger Penske calls them all for Al Unser Jr., who currently is above 225 miles an hour. That's a little bit slower than Mario and a little bit slower than Raul Boesel.
2 distinctly different management styles there, eh? Al Unser Jr., who sits currently in 3rd place. Raul Boesel is the leader. There he is, car number 5. As the pace car picks up the pace going into the 3rd turn. And Raul now will bring the field back. If he does it right, he should be picking it up, and he is. We watch for the green flag. Pace car rotates down off the course. Al Unser Jr. will have some distance to make up. As look what a great restart Raul got. Wow. Looking back through for little Al. Mario Andretti, he runs in 2nd place. Little Al is 3rd. Look at the distances both of those drivers have to make up. Mario is 2nd on the backstretch. View down from the Goodyear blimp floating over Michigan International Speedway. 18 degrees of banking here.
And it is a high-speed traffic jam. When you run fast here, your straight line speed is about 240 miles an hour. Your slowest speed at any point on the track can be above 225 miles an hour. Did you see Al Jr. duck down inside as Jeff Wood experiences a flat left rear tire in the Euro Motorsport car and limps his way back to pit lane.
Hopefully we'll keep it down. Yep, he's got it down and off, so we don't see another yellow. Unser Jr. and Fittipaldi splitting slower traffic as they were moving around. Jeff Wood all the way into the pits now. He's safe as they pursue this man, Mario Andretti. Currently running in 2nd. Stefan Johansson with a tire down on the left rear. Now do we have to ask a question about the tires? 2 of them right in a row there. Was there debris left on the course from that last accident?
we are having an inordinate number of tire problems here. I don't want to say they're tire failures, because remember, debris that cuts the tire down can cause the problem.
We're back yellow. Let's go to Gary.
And with that yellow out, they work here to change all of the tires for Stefan Johansson. Now he gets back out. Bosell, however, crosses the start-finish line, and this is going to be a costly delay for Stefan Johansson.
And the reason they threw the yellow is debris. When they see two cars like that in succession lift down to the pit lane, they have to go and inspect the racetrack, and Al Jr. takes the opportunity to make a stop.
So both of those went up in the turn 3 area where Villeneuve just had his accident. So apparently some more parts up there. Is that a logical conclusion?
That could well be. You will probably see a walking safety inspection, because it doesn't take anything very big to puncture some of these tires. But thankfully, our leaders, Bosell in particular, seems to be able to stay clear, as does Mario, Emerson, and Al Jr.
9.1 seconds the changing time on Al Unser Jr.'s tire. Raul Boesel, boy, look at this. You talk about taking the tire apart.
And of course, most of that damage happens on the drive back to the pit lane. This particular wheel is from Stefan Johansson's car, but the damage it does to the bodywork and the suspension can also be substantial.
Yeah, it would be unfair to suggest that the tire was that way immediately. It drove all the way into the pits to get into that condition. So at Michigan, once again, we are under yellow. It is our 4th of the day, 92 laps complete. Back at Michigan International Speedway, they just made an inspection out on the track. They have found a couple of parts out there. Jan Vikas, you have a further update for us.
Well, the field manager for Goodyear is John Slickerberry. Now, John, we've seen a lot of tires go down. What is the cause of this?
Well, it's a real tough track to run. You get a lot of punctures out here. You know, because of the high speeds, we have to run a very thin tread cap. And what happens is that, you know, you've seen a few accidents and a little bit of debris gets on the track, and you can cut a tire very easily.
Now, we just saw with Stefan Johansson there was a cut in that. Do you know what happened with Robbie Gordon's? Because that was before there was ever an accident.
Right. We have Robbie Gordon tire. You know, we don't see anything that was wrong with the tire. You know, I can't really explain it. We've been running, you know, for the last couple of days. Everything's been running just fine. So we have no reason to think we have any sort of a problem.
Okay, thank you, John. Well, gentlemen, one thing to keep in mind, it's the carbon fibers after a crash that seems to be puncturing these tires because they're very sharp.
So pieces of the bodywork. Robbie Gordon, remember, he had his problems earlier in the day. He's back trying to get back in this fight as best he can. He's in 6th position right now, but still a lap behind the leaders. Let's go to Gary.
Paul, here's an interesting story from the Penske cab on how they're addressing this problem of losing tire pressure. If you run over a piece of debris and the pressure starts to go down. For the first time under race conditions today, every one of the wheels on every Penske car has one of these little cylinders mounted inside the spokework. And in this cylinder is a battery-operated transmitter. And they set this mechanism so that it monitors air pressure. You run over debris and the pressure drops by a pound or more. This unit sends a signal to an onboard computer on the chassis. And then by telemetry, that information is fed to the pits so that within a matter of seconds, they know, have a warning that they may be in danger of a tire going down. Now, this won't help you in a blowout, but it'll help you if you run over one of those pieces of carbon fiber and debris. This is an offshoot of what happened to Emerson Fittipaldi a year ago last spring at Phoenix. When Paul Tracy was leading and crashed, Emerson ran over debris, and they didn't know it. His tire went down. He crashed. He lost 20 points for a possible win. He lost the championship by less than 20 points last year and $1 million prize that goes for winning the PPG IndyCar Championship. So this little device, new for the first time under race conditions, may give the Penske team a slight advantage today. And with the tires we've seen going down, this could be a big piece of information for them.
Very smart piece of equipment, but I wonder with all the telemetry, the drivers are running out of excuses.
Gary, you mentioned it won't help you in the case of a blowout, but we must remember the blowouts are caused mostly because the air does leak out. So in fact, it really does help stop those blowouts.
Raul Boesel picks up the pace once again. We are ready to go back to green. We'll go back on lap 95. 4 yellow periods, 34 total laps of yellow here today. As Raul comes back up at speed. Closing behind him is Goodyear. He runs in 5th place, a lap down, looking for Mario Andretti. There he is. Mario Andretti Andretti, the second-place car. Fittipaldi and Unser Jr. were closing on Mario before this last yellow. Well, they close again as Mario comes around Mauricio Guzman.
Favorite high line, gets away from everybody else, moves high. That's Tracy. The other Penske that he now follows. Tracy still back up to speed, having had that front steering problem earlier. But there's Mario, goes way high up to the outside wall. That's where he likes to run. Now he comes down and gets the slipstream.
Paul Tracy to the high side. Tracy runs 3 laps behind the leader in 15th position.
Slipstream and drafting so important at our super speedway like Michigan. You might ask, how far behind the other car can you begin to pick up that draft with that slipstream? Nigel Mansell told me earlier, as far as 100 yards behind the car, you can feel the turbulent air and begin to feel that suck. So it's very effective here.
Got a glimpse of Emerson Fittipaldi and then Paul Tracy. Now back with Mario Andretti, second place, behind Raul Boisel. Raul is 5.7 seconds ahead already. Dominic Thompson just ahead of Mario. Fittipaldi 2 seconds back from Mario Andretti. There's Fittipaldi.
So the chase is on, and we know the Penske's are looking for the reliability that you need to have for 500-mile races. Emerson is on the pace, but he doesn't have the ultimate speed. 221 miles an hour is the fastest Emerson has gone all afternoon.
There's fourth place, 31 car, Al Unser Jr.
And Al Jr. does have the speed. 225 he did back in lap 57.
Those 4 cars run on the leader lap. Scott Goodyear is in 5th place, 1 lap behind the leaders. Robbie Gordon, he's in 6th, a lap behind. Too bad he couldn't take advantage of the yellows and get up and back onto the leader lap. He was so powerful in the early going until that tire let go.
Well, he hasn't had a fair shake yet, but there is such a long way to go yet in this race. All he needs is to catch some of these yellows properly, and he can get back on the lead lap. But Gordon definitely displaying a new maturity and discipline in his driving, because since Australia, he has been meticulous as we look over his shoulder at the Ford electronics telemetry.
200 miles now complete, 100 laps into the record book in the Marlboro 500.
You can see he will breathe the throttle and then back on at 2. Let's watch him at 3 and 4. Oh, it's not flat. Little breather. And then back flat at the end of 3 and all the way down through 4. Watch the miles per hour. Down what's essentially the front straight. In fact, it is a long turn. 230 miles an hour and diver down into turns 1 and then up the banking into 2.
He made several adjustments there as we watch Al Unser Jr. closing on Teo Fabi, the 9th place car, 2 laps behind the lead of the race. But while we were watching Robbie Gordon, he moved his hand down a couple of times. Is that readjusting the electronics on the dash display?
It's the fuel mixture is the main thing that they adjust unless the pop-off valve is beginning to open and the driver has a monitoring tube in his helmet right beside his ear. If the pop-off valve begins to let go, he hears a little airflow, little sip, sip, sip of air. That'll tell him turn it down a notch or 2. Don't be too greedy with the pop-off valve. Just get reliable horsepower.
To the pits once again, Jan Beekes.
Well, speaking about Robbie Gordon, he made a change in the front of the car, the steering arm. We checked with Tim Wardjob, his engineer. We said, is the toe on the car okay? He says, well, it's very close, but not perfect. When Derek mentioned that he had to lift just a little in those turns, that's why. The front end's not perfect, but right now he's still running very quickly and trying to make up that time lost.
Yeah, laps at 223.8 this last lap. As we ride again with Robbie Gordon, gave you a look down through the entire field, including the cars out.
There's Robbie, takes the high line. Surface change comes off it. Watch the traffic, how fast he catches it. Sometimes you don't know whether it's safer to go outside between the traffic and the wall. In that case, the traffic moved right down to give Gordon that clear outside run. he has a Penske
Dominic
down on the
Dobson
inside.
currently runs in 7th place. One of the 2 PacWest cars. Robbie Gordon overhauled the teammate just a few moments ago. Scott Sharp, a rookie here. But we watched Dominic.
Good run for Dominic Dobson. Qualified 9th. Surprised a lot of people. Started on the outside of row 3. Has behaved himself. Does a very good run for a new team. PacWest. This particular team, PacWest, made headlines yesterday of some sort because they announced they will test Danny Sullivan in this particular car on Tuesday at the kart official test at Mid-Ohio.
Dominic Dobson, the fastest rookie here, which surprised me because you think of him in connection with the Indy 500 as we watch Emerson Fittipaldi continuing to work his way through traffic.
Changes his line, comes down really low, and then you let the car run free. On full power, let the car do what it wants to do. Up through the banking. How fast is Emerson? 222 is still his fastest lap. That's not quick enough to keep more adjustment.
And there is the key. Al Unser Jr., the 31 car, is closing on Fittipaldi. Jan Beekes, you have an update on these cars.
Well, I sure do. They started off the race, Paul, conservatively, and they were pushing. Both Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi have been in, and they have both of them more front wing. So both these 2 drivers much happier with the balance of their car right now.
This is the battle on the track as Hunter Jr. closes on Fittipaldi. Boissel 6 seconds ahead of 2nd place Mario Andretti. This is the fight for 3rd that's beginning to build.
Now this is a fight among the teammates. There are no team orders, certainly at this early stage of the race. Unser Jr. has been able to see Emerson for the last 5 or 6 laps. He knows he has the speed, and he just needs to be patient because he knows he's going to pull out from the slipstream and blow by him in just a few laps.
Across the line, 1.3 seconds back. Last time across. Al's improving on that now. Now 1.1 seconds as they came across the stripe. Tracy in the pits again, no factor in this race. 5 laps behind the lead. 13th position.
Now it becomes a test session for someone like a Paul Tracy. Gain experience, but here are the teammates. Locked in battle here. This is for position. This is for 3rd place, and Unser Jr. closes in.
Al Unser Jr. whittled 2/10 off on the last lap. See what he does here. Another 3/10 as Little Al very definitely in contact with 3rd place Emerson Fittipaldi.
And how busy are racing drivers during the season? Al Unser Jr. has only been home in his house in Albuquerque for 7 days since May 1st. On the road doing testing or racing or promotional work. These boys are busy during the season. But look at this now. In the slipstream, we know it's effective from 100 yards behind. And here goes the slingshot.
Al Unser Jr. makes his move to close now. Look how fast he comes down on Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi with slower traffic just ahead. Little Al up on the high side. Fittipaldi trapped by that slower traffic, but will Al get trapped now on the backstretch? Inside of Mark Smith.
So all the Penskes are in the group here. Tracy moves aside, but Al Unser Jr. clearly outhandles Emerson. When you have to make the car round that turn 2, Emerson is off the power, and Al Jr. is on it hard.
Al Unser, he loves to drive it fast. He'll tell you his favorite tracks are the high-speed super speedways. He is so good on them. No wonder he likes them so much. Let's go to the pits. Jan Beekes with an update on Emerson Fittipaldi.
Yes, when we just saw those cars, each Penske car going by, it turns out that Emerson Fittipaldi is getting that push back again. In the next pit stop, in about 10 or 12 laps, he's going to try to go either for more front wing or actually reduce the wicker at the rear. Al Unser Jr. obviously more balanced than Emerson, who's got the push.
Little Al comes alongside of Scott Sharp and looks for racing room.
And push is the problem, but that leads to the symptom, which is what slows you down. The symptoms are you have to back out of the power to control the push. Well, that's why we saw Al Jr. blast by.
The leader of the race, Raul Boissel, 4.25 seconds ahead of 2nd place Mario Andretti, driving his last 500. Back at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan, watching Emerson Fittipaldi, 4th place. Gigantic crowd here today. We look down on beautiful Michigan International. One of America's most enduring images, the Goodyear blimp, overhead giving us an aerial view here at the Marlboro 500. Raul Boesel out by 1.8 seconds ahead of Mario Andretti. Pit stops due. Hiro Matsushita already into the Dick Simon pits, getting some fast service out of that crew, but we're expecting the leader of the race to come into the pit right next door any time now. Probably about 2 laps away. There is 2nd place Mario Andretti. In his long and illustrious career, how many 500-mile race wins for Mario Andretti, who heads into the pits? Take a guess. Surprised me, 3. Indy in 69, Michigan here in 84, and at 86 at Pocono. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, it's his 67th and final 500-mile event. Just think about that. So many in the great career. He had been closing on Boesel, but he's the first in this sequence to make the stop. Everything appears to be routine. We don't see any changes, front or rear, waiting for the fueling. Now he's rolling. 13. Oh, problem. Jacks went back down. Cars hung up. Now they get the jack back up and he's away, but they lost precious seconds. The jack apparently engaged again, and as he started to move forward, it was gouging into the asphalt, and he just couldn't go.
Well, it engaged because the hose was still hooked to the car.
That's it. What happened, Gary, was they couldn't actually release the air hose, and they are furious. Donnie is furious there. They couldn't release the hose. Donnie goes back and talks to his engineer, Brian Lyles. But Mario can be thankful that the crew member stopped him, because he would have had to make another run around all the way as Boesel comes in.
And terribly frustrating for those crew members. Here is the leader of the race in Jan Beekes.
Here he is, our leader, Raul Boesel. Obviously, the way things have been going, they hope for just some smooth pit work here from the Dick Simon team. Okay, the outside front is done. We're looking for changes. At the moment, they have not touched this car. Obviously, very happy with the handling. Fuel's in, and he is up. 15.3 for Boesel.
As Boesel comes out of the pits, Mario Andretti slows down on the track. Hopefully not the end of his day. Came out of the pits and slowed down.
It's hard to believe that we see Mario again running slow on a 500-mile race. He had been the fastest car on the racetrack, averaging above 228 miles an hour, and it is over. Incredible for Mario.
He pulls in on a part of the old road course here at Michigan International. His final 500 has come to an end. He was so much in this fight. Andretti alone out on the backside of the track. And Al Unser Jr., the 31 car, picks up the lead of the race. Due for a stop any time now. It's been 30 laps since his last pit stop as he closes on Stefan Johansson.
Al Unser Jr., who pays no real attention to qualifying, has come from 14th as we join the Robbie Gordon-Scott Goodyear battle. Gordon, little poke down the inside. He is currently running in 4th place. Scott Goodyear is. Boesel is 5th. Goodyear.
Robbie Gordon takes 4th away from Goodyear.
I knew it was one of those.
So it changes at the top of the order with still some stops to be made. Unser Jr. leads, followed by Fittipaldi. Mario slows to a stop. That takes him out of the competition. Raul Boesel comes out of the pits in 3rd place as we go yellow. And the assumption is a debris yellow. No obvious incident on the course.
And the yellow may be what will help Robbie Gordon and Scott Goodyear. They were down a lap. They just need to go all the way around to get back on that leader lap. Look at Carl Haas in this. Both of his cars are gone.
They have decided that Mario Andretti's car is in a precarious position, and so they're going to pull him in from that position out on the race course. That is the reason for this, the 5th yellow of the day. And Al Unser Jr. takes advantage of it and heads down for some Penske service. So here's a tremendous advantage for little Al. They can take their time. They're not under any pressure whatsoever. Fittipaldi, 2nd place in as well. Gary Gerald's right there.
Interesting conversation leading up to this stop under yellow regarding Emerson Fittipaldi, who is now listed in 2nd place. They couldn't make up their minds if they wanted to take wing out of the nose, reduce the size of the wicker bill at the rear. Emerson changed his mind, we're told, twice, and then they decided no changes whatsoever. He's back out, Paul.
Yep. That was the time, and the time is gone. So as we watch Robbie Gordon head for the pits, we are under yellow for the 5th time of the day with the 125th lap complete at Michigan. Back at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan as Mario Andretti was towed back to the pit area and then made the turn back into the garage area. His day and his final 500-mile race obviously done. So both of Carl Haas's cars, first Nigel Mansell, the early leader, out of the race. Now Mario Andretti, a definite contender for this, the first half of the race. We're just past the 250-mile mark. Jan Beekes moves in very close to Mario right now. Raul Boesel is the leader under the yellow. Unser Jr. is second. Emerson Fittipaldi is third. Robbie Gordon is fourth. Scott Goodyear is fifth. This is under the yellow. 5th of the day. 38 laps of the 127 laps run have been run under the yellow flag. Those eyes tell you so much. Jan Beekes.
Mario, we heard it was an engine problem. Is that what let loose?
Yeah.
That's a tough way to end your last 500-mile race, isn't it?
Yeah, especially the way the car was working.
You had a good shot at winning this today, you think?
Well, I think so. I mean, the car was really working well, and just now we were just getting on to the proper staggers, and I could run 26, 27s, you know, and I was catching Raul, so, you know, I was being fairly patient, you know, a long way to go. Shame, because this is probably the best I ever had a car working here.
Now, talk about the incident, if you may, in the pits. When you came in, it was all flooded with water. Obviously, that was a very tricky situation also.
Well, that lost us quite a bit because they almost put me down a lap.
Stand here. You're blocking a fire lane. Going in front of the garage.
Well, Mario obviously needs to get moved out of the way. Even when you're Mario Andretti, we have to keep this area clear. Paul?
Well, this was Mario Andretti. This was not the water incident. This is the one where the hose was still attached. That's the hose that supplies the pressure to the jacks. They got it disengaged. It shouldn't have caused any problem to the car.
Only consolation, Mario still leaves here as officially the fastest man in the world on a closed course racetrack. Of course, he set that time above 234 miles an hour, qualifying on the pole here last year.
But did you see the pain in his eyes? The Valvoline race recap. We're at the halfway point, just beyond it now. Roy Boesel has averaged 154 miles an hour. We had 5 lead changes, 5 leaders, 6 lead changes, 5 yellow flag laps. We're actually up at the 39th yellow flag lap right now. 9 cars are out of the run here. These are the cars out of the race. And there's some fairly substantial names in there. Both of the Hondas, Nigel Mansell, Jimmy Vasser had a wheel bearing let go. Adrian Fernandez had fire in the pits. Michael Andretti while leading. Eddie Cheever driving for A.J. Foyt with his electrical problem. The accident involving Jacques Villeneuve. That's at 125 laps of the halfway point. We've been under yellow since then at 128 laps. And, of course, Mario Andretti just fell out of the race. So we are still under yellow here. Just past the halfway. And we promised you some surprises. We've had them thus far. We're back at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan. 129 laps complete, 250 laps of scheduled distance. 1 lap to go back to the green flag. Jen Swintal, the official starter for the IndyCar, signals them. But look at what happens here. Raul Boesel is the leader of the race. Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi right behind, second and third. But they've got a little distance. They have to get around Teo Fabi before they get in contact with the leader. And then some other cars back in the field. But the key, Derek Daly, is that Robbie Gordon and Scott Goodyear have made up all that distance and are running 4th and 5th on the leader lap.
And we are not convinced that Goodyear has the speed to run with this leading group. But we do think Robbie Gordon, who's almost at 224 miles an hour, can give these leading 3 a bit of a headache. But as the race goes on here, some of the cars get faster. Unser Jr. is now above 226.
You got to look, too, at Arie Luyendyk there. You will see him come up here in a second as we go through the field. He started in 28th position. Luyendyk now sits in 9th place. There he is. What a spectacular run for him.
Good one for Luyendyk. Terrible qualifying session here. New engineer on board with this team, Brian Berthold.
getting his rapport, working with Lyondike, but Lyondike a specialist on these high-speed super speedways. He will take this particular car to Holland on Tuesday for an IndyCar demonstration at Zandvoort, the old Grand Prix racing circuit.
Gary Gerald, update on Arie Luyendyk as we're ready for green.
His confidence soared because he went 10 miles an hour faster in the final warm-up this morning than he qualified. We're ready for green, Paul.
Back under speed. Raul Boisel down on the inside with slower traffic alongside. Not that much slower, sorry. And the two Penske cars, Unser Jr. and Fittipaldi, as Scott Goodyear makes a move on Robbie Gordon, gets past him for the moment. They are battling for fourth place.
And this is a battle, as you say, for position. Gordon is down the outside. He's in a traffic jam.
Oh, they split on both sides of slower cars. There's Fittipaldi coming down the inside. Back on Gordon now as he continues his battle with Goodyear. So as they come back to green, we have fights breaking out all over this track. The only one that seems safe at the moment is Raul Boisel. There's Scott Goodyear. There was a report as he came back to green that he may be having some shifting problems with his car. Didn't look like it as he came back to green, but then he fell off on speed just a little bit. We'll keep an eye on his car. Nevertheless, whatever it was, it got him around Gordon.
Scott Goodyear again takes the high line here. Came here with a new setup put on by John Dick. Much softer than he ever ran before here. And believe it or not, over the bumps, he liked it. He was fast. He was comfortable and confident this morning. And now, for the first time in a long time, he is in a top 4 position in an IndyCar race.
So Scott Goodyear has had some disappointments this year, including at Indianapolis. Back on board, Robbie Gordon. Gordon has come back a bit. He returned the last lap at 223 miles an hour, but fell a second and a half behind Scott Goodyear. Let's go to the pits and Jan. Jan Vikas.
Standing by, yes, we are in Gordon's pit, and at the moment they are trying to figure out what could be the cause of him dropping back. We'll have that answer for you shortly, but they thought going to green the car was perfect.
Derek Walker, the car owner, still seems satisfied. A bit of a smile there. Whatever it is, it's not upsetting him badly just yet.
And announced yesterday that Robbie Gordon, his crown jewel in his team, signed a 3-year contract to remain with the Valvoline Cummins racing team. Now, what they didn't say in the press release is Gordon does have a buyout option should he want to go to Formula One in 1997. But Gordon is on board, and what a jewel he is for Derek Walker to have.
And a bit of a surprise. A number of people had speculated that that was going to be the second driver with Michael Andretti at Newman Haas, even though there was some indication that that would not have been Michael's choice. Gary Gerald, you have an update on Scott Goodyear.
We just checked with John Dick, and he said the problem for Goodyear is really a mini problem. His gear selector indicator, which is on the dash in the cockpit, is not functioning properly. But the sequence of the sequential shift is correct, so the car is working good. It's just the indicator that's not working. And remember, Scott Goodyear broke through here 2 years ago to win his first and only IndyCar event.
Well, IndyCar's raced for 83 years without a gear selection indicator on the dash. I bet he can go to the end without it.
But this is the 90s, and it's great to see John Dick working well with Goodyear. John Dick had his own team. He was in partnership with Tim Duke in Proformance. They ran John Paul earlier, particularly at the Speedway. Now he moves over to try and help Goodyear with Kenny Bernstein's Budweiser team.
Robbie Gordon just cut the last lap a mile an hour faster than Scott Goodyear, so he's closing again. Not to make too much light of Goodyear's problem with that indicator. The old H pattern, especially with some of the race cars actually having a visible gate, you could see where you were in the pattern. But with sequential, it's really helpful to know exactly what gear you're in.
Oh, look at Gordon round the outside in turn 3 again.
Let's go to the pits, Jan Vikas.
Well, Paul, now we have had the opportunity to check with Tim Wardrop, and he said all it was not having the right timing in traffic. It turned out that Scott Goodyear had the better timing. They do not see a problem with Robbie. Things are going just the way that, obviously, they're very excited about getting that lap back.
Well, Scott Goodyear continues to run about a mile an hour slower than Robbie Gordon. So Gordon very much in pursuit. But traffic is a factor here. Gordon high alongside Teo Fabi. is a second and a half behind Scott Goodyear in the ongoing battle for fourth. Raul Boisel is still the leader. And then the two Penske cars, Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi.
And don't forget the speed being demonstrated by Dominic Dobson. We saw him flash out behind Teo Fabi there, almost clipped Fabi, but Dobson, who is running speeds above 223 miles an hour, also giving a good account of himself here.
Scott Sharp running in 10th place right now. About 7 seconds behind Ari Leyendijk. The moment unchallenged running alone. Back on board with Robbie Gordon. The Michigan 500, 13 races, 12 different winners. The only two-time winner, Michael Andretti. And he's out of this run here today. Derek Walker keeps track of his driver in 5th place, Robbie Gordon. The PPG IndyCar World Series is being brought to you by American Honda, who has been making quality cars in America for the past 11 years. And by PPG, world leaders in automotive finishes. Back at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan, Mauricio Guzman and Teo Fabi fighting one another on the course. They're actually separated by a lap in competition, but they have hooked up with one another. There is an indication coming from the observers that there may be a rear wing vibration in that car. A moment ago, you were looking at the front wings and didn't find anything, but you obviously saw something you were concerned with.
Very difficult to pick up a vibration when you look from the TV cameras, but you can see a little flutter there. Guzman may be aware of that. Became a dad of twin boys just 2 weeks ago.
Watch it. You do see some vibration. So we'll keep an eye on Mauricio Guzman. Raul Boisel is the leader by 3 seconds over Al Unser Jr. Guzman runs in 11th place. There's your leader, Raul Boisel. Potential first victory in the Indy cars for Raul. First for Dick Simon. After years as both a driver and a car owner. But the Penske cars are lined up second and third. And we'll certainly have something to say about that before the race is over. 146 laps complete. Now, let's take a look at the interval. You saw Raul cross. There is the second place car, Al Unser Jr. So just 2.79 seconds as they cross the line that time.
And Al Unser Jr. at the moment is faster than Boisel. In fact, his fastest lap is 2:26.8 for Jr., 2:26.1 for Boisel. He goes inside his teammate Marco Greco. Dick Simon mentioned earlier, we think we can get this car perfect. I don't think it's perfect yet. He needs a little bit more speed if he is to fend off the challenge of that man there, number 3 in your picture, Al Unser Jr.
1.7 the last time around. Al Unser Jr. is definitely closing. The last lap, Al Unser Jr. was 0.7 of a mile an hour faster. 2:26.1 for Raul, 2:26.8 for Little Al.
And Al Jr. is superb at wearing him down. Chase him, hound him, keep the car under me. Don't stress it mechanically. A long way to go. He is a master at these 500-mile races and understanding track position. Track position means just stay within sight of the leader, then make your attack.
Al Unser Jr. fell back a little bit to 2.26 seconds behind Raul as they came across the last line. That was the traffic that he had to encounter. Fortunately, the computer support of the EDS scoring system really helps in being able to determine how fast they're running and how close the interval, who's closing on what and where. Available all up and down the line to the crews.
Remember, Boisel's car, run by Dick Simon, is a private team. This is not the factory-supported Lola team or factory-supported Cosworth team. So it just shows you that you can buy a production car from Lola in England or Rayner and go and race head-to-head with the cream of the crop like Penske Racing.
Well, Gary Gerald out on the course. Al Unser Jr. is trying to reel Raul Boisel in.
Dick Simon is very aware, of course, of that dwindling interval. We asked him how concerned, and he says the problem is that we picked up a bit of a push on this current set of tires after the last stop. They'll try to weather it till the next stop, try to make an adjustment there, hope for a better balance on the car, hoping meanwhile that they can keep that 2-second advantage over Little Al. Dick Simon early today before this race told me, I guarantee you, if we can run 500 miles, we will win this race because we are the fastest car. Well, right now they've got a little glitch with this set of tires, and they're hanging on, Paul.
Yeah, but they don't have that long to wait. They made their last stop 31 laps ago, so you would guess within the next 5 laps they would bring that car in. Al Unser Jr., on the other hand, is only 27 laps out, so you would guess that he'll take over the lead of the race at least for a while.
Yes, indeed. Now, we watched very closely on the last pit stop when we saw Bozell making it. There were no adjustments made to the car, so we can only presume that it was the tire imbalance that is causing his push. The tire pressures may be different, or there may be a very slight stagger difference on those rear tires, and it doesn't take much to give you a push, and then the Al Unser Juniors will pounce.
The interval back to 1.7 seconds. Raul Boesel to Al Unser Jr. Fittipaldi is well back.
Well, Junior just turned the heat up. He just did a lap of 227.8 miles an hour. The longer this race goes, the faster Al Unser Jr. gets as Bozell pulls down from the slipstream of Teo Fabi in the Penn-Doyle car.
Boy, just like that car is on rails. What a beautiful day they're having. Raul, who loves these high-speed ovals and does so well on them.
How can you say somebody deserves a win? But everybody seems to say Bozell deserves a win. Maybe his time will come today. He has been so close so many times, all the way back to the mid-80s. When he was on the front row with Dick Simon and races way back then, but he's never managed to just capture the champagne of the #1 position.
2 years ago at Indianapolis, so very much in the early going of the race, and then a penalty takes him out, one that many of the teams questioned was an appropriate penalty anyway. On to Milwaukee, pole there. Not a good result in the race, though. Same thing this year, pole at Milwaukee, no victory. Raul Boesel would be cheered all up and down these pits if he would score a victory here today. Back to the battle for 4th place, Scott Goodyear and Robbie Gordon. Gordon on the right of your screen begins to close in as Goodyear encounters some traffic.
And this is a great high-speed battle here again. We're over Gordon's shoulder. He takes the outside groove. It gets gray when you get too high. He passes Marco Greco, but you can see how evenly matched these cars are. Now, when you're evenly matched, Gordon will be hoping that Goodyear gets blocked in traffic. And, of course, Goodyear wants to try and make all the right moves so as Goodyear stays that 5 or 6 or 7 car lengths back.
What an incredible run Gordon is having here. Right front tire lets go in the early going when he's running up in the front. He falls several laps behind the race, is now caught up, and is challenging for 4th place. He, by the way, is the most consistent driver thus far this year coming to this race. 1,062 laps Gordon has completed. That's the most of any driver in competition this season. Lap count in the IndyCar. Now he continues his challenge. Raul Boesel as Al Unser is closed in again. Now just under a half a second behind.
Oh, look at the run off turn 2. Look at the run Junior had. Here we go.
The crowd comes to their feet and begins to cheer as Al Unser Jr. comes to the lead of the race around Raul Boesel. Boesel's not going to let it go that easy, though. And remember, Raul is beginning to think about a pit stop. Listen to that crowd.
Everybody in the front grandstand here are on their feet to cheer Al Unser Jr. But we saw him outhandle, as his wife Shelley watches, we saw him outhandle Emerson between turn 2 and the frustration on Dick Simon's face.
If you were Dick Simon, would you not bring him in right now, make the changes and get him out? He's in the zone anyway.
He's got to calculate how many more stops he needs before the end of this race. But if he's in deep trouble, he'll lose way too much time on the racetrack. Sometimes it is better to stop. Look at the lead Al Jr. pulls out in just 1 lap.
So Raul Boisel has to give way to Al Unser Jr. And in fact, Fittipaldi shouldn't be too far behind Raul now as well.
217 miles an hour was Boisel's last lap, so he may be in trouble. We may see a pit stop very soon for Boisel.
Looking back for Fittipaldi as well. And there comes Emo as he closes on Raul Boisel. So Al Unser Jr. has picked up the lead of the Marlboro 500. The winner of the Michigan 500, is he on his way to making the Indy 500? Is he on his way to making it 2 in a row in 500-mile races and a lot more points for the PPG Championship? The battle continues here in Michigan. Boisel running in second place, 42 laps since his last stop, comes in. Hopefully they can get a good change on that car, Gary Gerald.
This team had been practicing its pit proficiency earlier today. Richie Simon on the right front already has made the change. They're waiting for the fuel. Now there's a wing adjustment. It's a dramatic one. Turns, look like 2 turns on both sides from Richie Simon, waiting for the fuel. Now he's rolling about 16 seconds plus, Paul.
And as he rolls out, Al Unser Jr. comes into the pits for his service on the 164 lap. Jan Vikas.
Well, he brings it to a stop right on the marks, Paul. We're going to keep a careful eye out for changes on this car. The changes that you will see will be in the front wing area if they decide to go for any at all. Okay, we've got all the tires changed. It's off the jacks. Oh, this is a little bit different. They went off the jacks earlier. Now they're just waiting for the fuel. Al Unser Jr., 15, just a little over 15. He's out of here.
So stops by first and second. Raul Boisel will keep an eye on his times now as he gets it up to speed. His first lap out of the pits at 226 miles an hour. And Scott Goodyear picks up the lead of the race with those stops. And we've got Gugelmin in trouble coming out of the pits. Looks like he was on a pit exit. Maybe the wheel came off. Who knows?
Well, that looks like what it is from here. Now, we did get the report earlier that he did have a vibration or felt a vibration. I don't know whether that was the cause of this.
No yellow.
But Gugelmin, who was having a superb run.
Well, what they're doing, it sounds like, the officials are going to close the pits. If they're doing it out of... They've decided yellow for the pits only. That will keep them open. That means Scott Goodyear and Robbie Gordon are now battling for the lead of this race. You're on board, Gordon. That's Goodyear just ahead.
And Gordon is out of sync with the pit stops. We know that because of what happened with that tire explosion earlier that he was so lucky to get away with. But what a battle now we have for the lead. Goodyear, who would have believed it, and Robbie Gordon.
But Robbie Gordon and Scott Goodyear made their last stop on the same lap 42 laps ago as Gordon heads into the pits. Goodyear stays out. Jan Vikas, here comes Robbie Gordon toward you.
You got it. And what you're going to watch for is one of the brakes locking up. There it is. Whoa, both are locked up. Whoa, boy, we called that one, Paul. He's been coming in here and locking up the brakes. And he did it again today, but he stopped it right where he wanted to. Earlier, Derek talked about those carbon fiber brakes. They are, oh, there we see a wing change also. Half turn on the front wings. Very hard to get the car stopped when those carbon fiber brakes are cold. Obviously, too much front bias for Robbie Gordon. 17.4 for Robbie Gordon.
Why would they even use carbon fiber brakes? They're much more expensive. Reason being, much lighter on all 4 corners, less unsprung weight. The car handles much better over some of the severe bumps here at Michigan.
So there's no confusion. There was some talk as Goodyear slows down. Goodyear slows it down.
He's out of fuel.
He's probably exactly. He went 44 laps. Remember that Gordon went 42 and came in. Goodyear has carried it to the 44th lap, and that appears to be too far.
And the glory of leading at the Michigan 500 suddenly backfires as Scott Goodyear hopes he makes it down off the banking and all the way down the pit lane to his pit. I don't think he will.
Gary Gerald.
Well, the crew now is in not a state of panic, but a major state of concern. They think that it probably is the fuel situation. They're poised, they're waiting, they're looking. No Goodyear in sight. Oh, my, what terrible disappointment.
Chris Griffith, his chief mechanic, looking down the pit lane. He may have to try and go down and help Goodyear, but he may roll just far enough to get to his pit lane, his pit box.
That's going to put him well out of the action, Gary Gerald. It looks like it is fuel. Was the engine running?
The engine was not running, I don't think, Paul, and all the noise, but the starter hasn't gone over the wall yet. They're changing the tires. They're getting the fuel. Here comes the starter to the wall. Yeah, no, there's no fire there at all. Now the starter will be engaged. Oh, my. Now it turns over once. Fueling still not yet complete. Fueling now complete. Engine turns over again. But when you run them out of fuel, sometimes it's tough to get them restarted. Now it roars into life, and Scott Goodyear, with all that frustration boiling inside of him, spins the wheels and gets away.
All right, throughout of that, the race course stays green, despite the fact that Mauricio Guzman got against the wall on the exit of the pits. They did keep the pits open. Al Unser Jr. picked up the lead of the race. Raul Boesel moved into second place with Emerson Fittipaldi third. Robbie Gordon made his stop, got him out into fourth, but look at him. He's now right on the back end of Emerson Fittipaldi, trying to take third away.
And he battles so long and hard against Goodyear, and suddenly Goodyear hands him the position on the plate, but it has lit the fuse inside Robbie Gordon, and he is in a battle to possibly win this race. Emerson, oh, he goes outside Willie T. Ribbs. Now he's on his favorite high line. Favorite high line, chasing the Penske. Versus Ilmore, here we go.
Robbie Gordon tries to the inside. And look how easy he comes by, though. He gives the car a little twitch right on past Fittipaldi, and he sails into third place. Robbie Gordon is coming up through this field for the second time today.
Now that pass happened coming off turn two, right under Emerson's rear wing, got the slipstream, got the draft and the suction, and what a slingshot by Robbie Gordon's Valvoline Cummins car. We're on board with a man on a mission right now.
Being reported out of the race now, Paul Tracy. He's with Gary Gerald.
Paul, this has been kind of a nightmarish day, and it started early when you banged into a wheel coming down here for that first pit stop, and really never got much better, did it?
Well, we started picking up some places, and we're getting up into the points, but then we had a bad set of tires, and I had to pit again and lost a couple laps, and then ultimately we lost a fuel pump or something, no fuel pressure, so it's just a long day. You know, we shouldn't even have been out there.
Now, is this the type of thing that might be of concern to your teammates, Unser and Fittipaldi?
Well, I don't think so. I think it was our problem, and, you know, we'll look forward to the next race. Today we shouldn't even have been out there.
Thank you, Paul.
In the meantime, on the circuit itself, Al Unser Jr. is being pursued hotly by Raul Boesel in second place. He's just been whittling away on Al for the past couple of laps. But for the moment, this race is being led by Al Unser Jr. 2 500 backs-to-back? Maybe. Next Saturday, August 6th, the American Bowl. The NFL preseason from Tokyo, Japan. Joe Montana leads the Kansas City Chiefs against Warren Moon and the Minnesota Vikings. NFL preseason on ESPN, Saturday, August 6th at 10 o'clock Eastern. At the Marlboro 500 at Michigan, Al Unser Jr., the leader of the race. Raul Boesel in second place. Third place is now Robbie Gordon as he got around Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi now in closing position.
And the Penske, the more you run on full tanks, the better they get. Sometimes here he comes inside Gordon. That looked very easy.
Fittipaldi back into third position.
Unusually easy for Fittipaldi as Johansson is in trouble.
Stefan Johansson's pit. They work on the spark plugs on the engine, but Johansson stays there, Gary Gerald.
Yeah, he's in the cockpit. Kenny Anderson said he radioed to him that it coughed coming down the straightaway. He was in 7th position. Now he's in. They're going through the whole electronics drill, just troubleshooting, hoping that they can find a quick solution, Paul.
Check those spark plug wires first and then go through the electrical system, change the black boxes. They've already done that. There's a routine drill for this.
And Johansson was absolutely flying. He was almost 227 miles an hour, but he lost 2 laps when we saw that rear tire go down and then disintegrate earlier in the race. So Johansson, unfortunately, has been an uphill battle,
But he has had the speed in Tony Bettenhausen's Audi Max car all this weekend.
The fastest Penske car coming into this race. There is Mark Smith. Little bit of history here. The first time that a Smith has ever driven in a 500-mile race. As Robbie Gordon's in trouble in the pits. Robbie Gordon gets in trouble on the pit road. Did that start on the racetrack and he just came down to this point?
He was
We're
chasing.
yellow again.
He lost it in turn 4, chasing Emerson Fittipaldi as team owner Derek Walker can't believe as he looks down to see what happened to Robbie Gordon.
IndyCar observers say that the engine let go. That caused the spin. Started in the 4th turn, and he slid all the way into the pits, Jan Beekes.
Well, the quick report that we have is that he lost the left rear link in the rear suspension. He was not trying to pit. They were not set up for him. Some sort of suspension problem for Gordon.
Well, wait a minute. That's an entirely different report than the observers' report of the engine. As Al Unser Jr. is the leader of the race, takes advantage of the yellow. Only 18 laps from his last stop, but on the 183rd, Raul Boisel locks up the brakes coming in as well, taking advantage of the yellow, as did Emerson Fittipaldi. But if it's suspension, are we back to the same question we asked at the start of the program? And that is there an inherent engineering problem there that could bite other cars?
Well, these cars, we mentioned at the top of the show, take an incredible amount of punishment, and Jan Beekes has more.
Jan?
Guys, okay, it turns out there was so much going on here that there was 2 stories. It does appear as though the observers were correct that it was an engine. We'll have to find out why they were talking about suspension here in the Walker pit. We'll check that and let you know later.
I'll tell you what, if I'm going to take my choice, I'd much rather it be the engine than suspension. Emerson Fittipaldi making his stop. We're under yellow. The 6th yellow of the day. 44 laps of this race have been run under yellow. Let's take a look at Robbie Gordon's onboard camera. Might give us ideas as Fittipaldi just wanted to beat the pace car out. Past the blend line. So watching the speed limit in the pits, he may not have beat the pace car to the blend line.
Otherwise, he would have been on his way long ago. So now he will have to.
So Fittipaldi with a problem.
You know, he's unsure. He is unsure. He stopped, looked over to the pace car, who waved him by.
But waved him by to go around and catch up, or, you know, exactly what was he being told there?
He will be waved to go ahead and catch up to the back of the field.
And stay on that lap.
If Emerson had not stopped and got that indication from the pace car driver, he could have been black flagged and got a stop and go. So a wise move by our elder statesman.
The view from the now quiet Robbie Gordon car back in the garage area as they begin to disassemble and do a bit of an autopsy there to find out what the problems were that took Robbie Gordon off of a truly magnificent run. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Rick Rice, our cameraman, showing you a trail of fluid that comes in behind the Valvoline Cummins number 9. And Robbie Gordon, you stand here. It was an engine problem, but boy, what a day, what a show you have put on. It started with the tire problem early, but the maturity that you seem to have displayed in recent races, working your way back up. Did you think you still had a chance to win this thing?
I think we definitely had a shot at winning it. I knew something was going on with the engine because I was pulling Emerson there pretty good when I was in 3rd, and all of a sudden he started closing the gap. About 3 laps later, she exploded in turn 3 and 4. Got very lucky. I mean, it slid all the way down pit lane, and luckily didn't hit anything. But, you know, I got to give credit to these Valvoline guys. You know, they had an excellent pit stop, put me back on the lead lap, and we were just having a great run.
We're looking at a replay right now, and what a masterful job to keep it off the concrete. Did you surprise yourself that you kept it off the wall?
You know, I was hoping we didn't take it onto the wall. You know, we got a test coming up next week, and we're trying to win IndyCar races right now. We can't afford any crashes, so unfortunately we would have jumped up in points a little bit, but we didn't. You know, got to give thanks to all of our crew for just excellent pit stops all day long, and Valvoline Cummins.
2 saves today, one off the wall with the tire a bit earlier as well.
You know the old saying, much rather be lucky than good.
And you've got a new 3-year extension on your contract to 97 too. I'm sure you're happy with that.
Yeah, I really am. You know, I made that decision because the team was running so good all year long, and they've given me such a reliable car. It's really disappointment that we had an engine pop today.
Thanks, Robbie.
All right.
That's not luck. That is skillful. He really kept that car off the wall. Oil pouring out from behind the car, under the rear tires, got her down on the pit road, and then still kept it off the wall. We're still under yellow. Focusing on the leader of the Marlboro 500 under yellow, Al Unser Jr., with Raul Boesel in second place. Now that Robbie Gordon had an engine go, something that we had a little bit of a prediction, because you saw that bit of a bobble that was probably the start of his engine going.
And actually saw Emerson make a very easy pass into turn 1, which surprised us a little bit. And then this happened. Listen. That's what it's like to hear an engine blow, begin to disintegrate. The driver presses his foot on the clutch, and then he tries to control it, but there was too much oil out on that rear wheel. That racing team dodged a machine gun hail this year, because he could have destroyed that car if he hit the wall.
All right, this was the other question, and it's as we called it. Emerson Fittipaldi got to the blend line right there at the same time as the pace car. Blend line's actually back a little bit now as the pace car came in, but when they got to the line, they hit it simultaneously, so the officials decided call it in favor of Emerson Fittipaldi. So we're still under yellow. 48 laps complete. We're on the 188th lap. Roger Penske, will he be celebrating in the victory circle at his track? We talked at the beginning, Derek, about the punishment on the race cars here.
It is quite phenomenal here, but I heard a very nice story that included the Penske team. They came here tested, and their push rods were not man enough for the job. What did they do? They made them stronger, obviously, but they made a phone call to the Reynard company and said, by the way, these are the stresses that we have experienced. This is what you need to build your push rods to, and Reynard built theirs stronger. So although they're the competition, the safety of the drivers is what is paramount. How much do they stress the push rods to? 13,000 pounds of load is what they expect them to withstand.
One of America's most recognized corporate symbols, the Goodyear blimp, hovers overhead providing aerial views of Michigan International Speedway and the surrounding Irish Hills here today. And those views do help tell us something about the race and the speeds of closure. Update on Scott Goodyear, Gary Gerald.
Well, let's follow up. Remember that stop where he came in and the motor was quiet? We thought that he had run out of fuel. As it turned out, they took on 38 and a fraction gallons in that 40-gallon capacity. So there was fuel on board. They've determined, remember we told you about that shift indicator light that had malfunctioned on the dash. Apparently it got into the electronics and the gremlin spread, and he was getting a false reading on his fuel that was left. So he's got a couple of problems there to contend with. That's what cost them so much time in the pit. But ironically, he did have fuel. It wasn't out. The machine caught, and they're hoping that that electronic gremlin doesn't resurface before the end of this race.
Well, when you use microprocessors, that can happen. Goodyear's still fourth, though, as we come back to the green flag. Quite a gap from the front of the field back to the rest of the cars. Al Unser Jr. is the leader, and he's back in that group. Moving low, looking for racing room, and Raul Boesel is right there.
And Willie T. Riggs with a slow car down the inside, but look at Boesel versus Al Jr. This is good stuff.
Raul Boesel was running faster than little Al coming into this last yellow flag session. Can he continue to run faster?
And the adjustments he made in the pit stop may be the key. They wound down that front wing to give him more downforce. He's quick off turn 4. Here we go.
Raul Boesel moves for the lead of the Marlboro 500. And boy, he handles up little Al with no problem. So the guy that was faster earlier then had problems with the front end. They made a two-turn adjustment to both wings in the front end. See Simon doing that. And boy, it made a world of difference. It's paid off right now as Raul is back in front and pulling away from little Al. Dick Simon and his wife, they couldn't be happier.
And Dick Simon had the frown earlier when Al Jr. made the pass, and now Penske has the frown. So Boesel is back in control. He's in contention. Does he deserve a win? We don't know. But he's going to have to fight really hard here to fend off Al Jr. if he wins this in the Duracell car.
One would presume the scenario here is one more pit stop to the end of the race. It's been a race punctuated by 6 yellow flags, so that will figure into the strategy and whether or not somebody wants to pit right on schedule or maybe try and hold just a little bit longer. Jan Beekes, you have an update.
Well, when you're talking about Raul Boisel and you're talking about taking wing out of the front, that was what the big discussion was in the Penske camp. In other words, for Raul Boisel to pass in the way he did, it really helped him that he had less downforce. When you come in to change the handling, you always want to take downforce out. They were very fortunate that car was getting loose and not picking up a push.
Third place, Emerson Fittipaldi. Front three cars very close together on this 2-mile superspeedway. Goodyear is fourth. First three cars, the only cars on the lead lap. And they're right together.
And if you listen very
Marco Greco slows down. Oh, he was having a great run, was in 8th place.
Brings lots of Brazilian sponsorship. Borden is the one that's on the side pod, a meat exporting business from Brazil to America. They had a great run today. Hopefully he's not finished, but it looks terminal.
Very pleasant young man with a nice smile. The 71 car is Scott Sharp, and he pulls to the inside. That's in a precarious position. I assume we go yellow for that.
Scott Sharp running in 8th place, had a big spin here just before qualifying on Friday. Scared him coming out of turn 2, but he brings out a full course yellow.
Yellow flag flies over Michigan as Marco Greco comes into the pits with obviously something seriously wrong, and the run at the Michigan 500 is interrupted once again, but Raul Boisel has gotten back to the front. The Marlboro 500 at Michigan. I'm Paul Page with Derek Daly, Jan Beekes, and Gary Gerald covering from the pits as we are under our 7th yellow of the day. 197 laps are now complete. The leader of the race under the yellow is Raul Boisel, followed by Allenser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi. Scott Goodyear is in 4th place, 1 lap down. In 5th place, 3 laps down, is Dominic Dobson, who had to acknowledge a passing the pace car penalty. They brought him into the pits for a stop and wait. He is back on the track once again. Ari Leyendijk, and by the way, stayed in 5th position. Ari Leyendijk runs in 6th place, followed by Teo Fabi, then Mark Smith, Hiro Matsushita, and until he fell out, which is the reason for this yellow, Scott Sharp was in 10th place. This rundown is 2 laps ago, just before the yellow, but it does give you an idea of who is in and who is out, and pretty close where they are.
And as we wait to get a green flag, we have a tremendous race in prospect here. Leyendijk following, Mark Smith here, but the 3 leaders, Boisel and the 2 Penskes, are one behind the other.
And with Boisel in front, as we watch both Scott Goodyear and Ari Leyendijk come into the pits, Gary, I guess there is some tension down there?
Well, let's find out from Dick Simon. How are the nerves right now? How much apprehension?
Well, Gary, we're pretty excited. The whole team, actually. We feel that we deserve a win somewhere along the way. We've been trying so hard. The car is being a little temperamental at the moment. That new bracket that we put on that Lola gave us just before the race is creating a little bit of nightmare. The car is pushing continually. The changes that we're making are making it better, but it keeps going away on us and starts to push again. So if God's willing and help us make the right decision, maybe we can bring him home.
Now you're going to change tire pressures, and of course you're looking at one more stop. Now when do you get in that window now for that final stop?
Well, we'll get in that window in probably another 30 laps. We'll be trying to, less than that actually, we'll be trying on that last stop to change the pressure in the left rear and the pressure in the right front to create a little bit more cross weight for him, giving a little more bite in the front, and then he can adjust the anti-roll bars inside the cockpit if that works. If it doesn't, I guess we can't say we didn't give it our best.
All right, Dick Simon, we'll watch right along with you, and I know it's been a long wait. Maybe this will be the day.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Let's go to Jan.
Well, Gary, talking about Dick Simon, it turns out that the Penske team right now are taking their cues from Dick Simon. They were going to come in if Raul Boisel pitted. They are queuing right now off Raul Boisel. Whatever Dick Simon does, then Roger Penske will follow. Obviously, Dick Simon put to rest what I had spoken about. I thought they were taking front wing out of Boisel's car. Of course, they're putting it in. So he does have a slower straightaway speed, but no, because now he can get through the corners quicker. He gets a higher speed coming off the turn, which is carrying all the way down into the end of the straightaway.
And Penske just following one of the oldest rules in racing, follow the leader. Whatever he does, you do. He turns in, you turn in. The leader currently is Raul Boisel under yellow. Penske cars are second and third. We'll be back with more from Michigan. Back at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan at the 202nd lap. 57 of the laps today have been under yellow. We are still under yellow. We should be back to green shortly. Al Unser Jr. is very definitely making his presence felt at the back end of Raul's car. Raul, remember, as the leader of the race as we head back toward green, sets the pace coming to green, but the pace car is running very slow ahead of them, and they're going to get bottled up.
Oh, they did get bottled
there's
up.
The flag. Boy, what a close call that may be.
And Bozell was lucky that Al Jr. also made a run with him into turn 3 and had to back off. And the pack suddenly descends, led by Teo Fabi behind Al Unser Jr.
If you were Raul, would you have taken that chance?
Oh, yeah, but the problem is the pace car. He didn't anticipate just how slowly the pace car was running through turn 4. And pace car being driven, I believe, by Gordon Johncock.
Scott Goodyear as he moves around Emerson Fittipaldi. Now that gets him back up a lap. Remember, he had all of his problems with the electronics that brought him into the pits with the engine shut off. He gained back 1 lap. He's still got a lap to gain if he can get around Boisel and get back on the leader lap. He can get back in this fight.
And great to see Goodyear showing his true form at last this season. It has not been a happy marriage between the Bernstein team and Scott Goodyear. They will part and go separate ways next season, but he is having a great run this afternoon.
He is a super racing driver. Canadian that was, by the way, the driving instructor for Paul Tracy years ago. Here comes Fittipaldi once again. Not a fight for position, just a fight for Goodyear in his lap, which is so important to him.
Oh, side by side above 220 miles an hour with confidence that you know your opposition and you can run side by side with confidence. Goodyear with the Ford engine comes up behind Emerson, but then you see Emerson stretch it as he goes through the banks of turns 3 and 4.
I saw what looked like a pretty good bottom at the back of Goodyear's car going into that corner as well.
We've seen a lot of that this afternoon, and I couldn't decide whether it was just a surface change that's got white marks on it or whether it was actually a fairly heavy bottoming.
At the Marlboro 500 with 206 laps with the 250 lap scheduled distance of 500 miles. Raul Boisel is the leader of the race. This car, Al Unser Jr., is trying to chase him down. We have just 44 laps to go on an afternoon that has been punctuated by 7 different yellow flags. Robbie Gordon, the first to go yellow when he blew a tire, fell way back in the field, was able to keep the car going, and then was able to come back up to the front until finally he was out of the race totally. Nigel Mansell was leading. He's out of the race with a butterfly that's stuck in the engine. Michael Andretti was leading. He caught the wall. We've had a long, hard afternoon, and that's what the Michigan 500 is all about. Raul Boisel is now 2.3 seconds out in front of his nearest competitor, the Indy 500 champion, Al Unser Jr.
And we know from what Dick Simon told us that the longer Bozell runs on a tank of fuel, the handling goes away. He gets the dreaded push. Al Unser Jr. may know that because he chased him for so long the last time. But right now we have Ford versus Ilmore. A lot of people believe here that the Ford has more horsepower here than the Ilmore, but very few people...
Fittipaldi, and that looks like a motor.
That is an engine. Very few people would argue that the Penske goes through corners here better than everybody.
Roger Penske getting the word. Now he'll relay on. He should be on the radio only with little Al, though I assume Roger can slip over and cover any channel. But if you're talking about the power plant battle that we talked about at the start of the day, there's an Ilmore.
Now this is terminal. When you see smoke like that, you immediately see the driver unbuckle his belt because he probably heard the dreaded mechanical mix-up of the engine parts, and now it's all over.
So out of third place, Emerson Fittipaldi won his first race here in the IndyCars in 1985. Was at speed, chasing Teo Fabi, and just that quickly it's over.
Look at the Pac West car just ducks away from that oil smoke being thrown out by Fittipaldi. But one of Al Jr.'s championship contenders falls by the wayside.
Yeah, let us do consider the championship points and what that does with Michael Andretti out, now Fittipaldi out. In the race, there are 10 cars, so Fittipaldi can still pick up a point or two, depending on how the rest of this race runs. But it's going to adversely affect both their runs in the championship. Little Al is still in this fight, and he is whittling away on Raul Boesel. Willie T. Ribbs in for a stop.
Now, as we watch Willie T., it is a terrific two-way fight. Scott Goodyear now moves up to third place. Emerson hasn't dropped off the leaderboard yet, but that now elevates Dobson, Lyondike, Bobby, Mark Schmidt, Matsushita, and Willie T. Ribbs here are all in the top 10, and they all benefit from Emerson's troubles.
So Willie T. in 10th place back into the fight. Chuck Sprague talks with his driver, Emerson Fittipaldi. Sprague, who has been fairly vocal lately, he was quite angry when it was suggested that Robbie Gordon said that the Penske team had traction control. Sprague, the proud man, says we don't have it, we wouldn't do it. We follow the rules.
Quick update on speed of the leading cars. Boesel's last lap, 226.6. Al Jr., 226.5. They are almost perfectly matched at the moment.
Jan Bikus, you have Emerson now?
Yes, we are standing by with Emerson. Emerson, you're so close to the end. Was it the engine let go?
Yeah, that's a shame. The car was really handled well. I was a little stuck in the last three starts, but I was able, if I would pass Fabio to catch Junior, my car was flying.
Now tell me, we are close to the end of the race. We know you're on a 5th and a 6th gear. Had you already gone to 5th to try and run them down, or were you in 6th?
No, I was going to go 6th now. On the restart, I was in 5th.
So now, what do you say to Al Jr.? Because he's near the end. He's close to the lead. Would you now advise him with your engine not to go down to 5th gear to try and run down Boesel?
That doesn't make any difference. Only 100 reps different.
Okay. Thank you, Emerson.
Emerson Fittipaldi, no advice for Al Unser Jr. Let him drive his own race. The gearing between 5th and 6th. It's really more a wind condition kind of gearing than anything else, wouldn't it be, Derek?
Yes, indeed. Sometimes they call it a cruiser gear, but with 100 revs difference, you can just get into a different power band. But Unser Jr. is beginning to turn it up on Junior, because look at that last lap above 227 miles an hour. As the laps go on, they still get even faster.
It brought him 0.3 of a second closer to this man, Raul Boesel. And very definitely in contact, and the battle for the lead is on again.
And 2 years ago, we all remember Boesel literally in tears at the Indianapolis 500 when he believed he had everything he needed to win the race. He was penalized and he was taken out of the fight. He was in tears because he believed that should have been his race. Now he is in the fight of his life with Al Jr.
So little Al closes last lap 227.8 compared to Boesel's 226.9. The EDS scoring system continuing to give us speeds lap after lap and helping track the closure.
This is Al Unser Jr.'s favorite chassis. Shelley continues to take notes on times and gaps. But this is Al Unser Jr.'s favorite car he's in. Chassis number 007. Yes, this was the same car that he won the Indianapolis 500 with.
Dick Simon and his son talk over strategy for this car. Raul Boesel, they are not in contact. Very, very careful to keep track of the cars on the course while we watch some of this pit action as well. We don't want to cover one with the other. We'll be back with more right after this. Moving to the closing laps now of the Marlboro 500 at Michigan. 222 laps are complete. The final pit stops due just any time now, probably within the next 4 laps. Al Unser Jr. trying to close on Raul Boesel. He got to about a minute or a second and a half behind Raul, and then kind of just got stopped right there, Jan Bikus. What do you expect?
Well, we will see Al Unser Jr. here in 4 laps. Now they're just giving me the signal. 3 laps for Al Unser Jr. I checked in with Richard Buck, who's the crew chief for Al Jr. I said, are you running flat out? He says, no. What we're doing, we're just keeping Raul in sight, and we hope to put him in front because of a quicker pit stop. Gary, you got more?
Well, indeed we do, because they're plotting strategy down here, and it involves a somewhat complicated change. They're gambling a bit. the Dick Simon crew, because they say now that they're going to make an adjustment on the balance of the car. They may sacrifice and not change the left front tire.
Whoa, what happened here?
Sewing.
Raul Boisel slows down, and all of a sudden, Dick Simon's on the radio to him. He's listening. Smoke at the back of the engine.
It's over.
Oh, no.
Unbelievable. Your words were just expressed again by Dick Simon. Boisel's day looks like incredibly it's over.
Ford Cosworth power plant. We've seen an Ilmore go in the last few laps in Fittipaldi's hands. We now see this one. Al Unser Jr. picks up the lead with his Ilmore. And a fire, that's a turbocharger fire in the back. They should be able to spray that right out.
Yeah, but the reason that catches fire is because there's lots of oil in there, and Boisel is probably on the radio right now to Dick, telling him the noises that he heard on that back straight, and this is terminal. Boisel is probably close to tears.
If a man ever deserved to win.
But Al Jr. was turning the heat up, because Al Jr. had just turned the fastest lap of the race 2 laps earlier, about 229 miles an hour. He's close to tears, this man.
Raul Boisel unstraps and climbs out at the Marlboro 500. Once again, it will not be Dick Simon's day. Gary Gerald.
Well, we're trying to get position in the chaos here because they were throwing a lot of equipment. Dick Simon, I hate to ask you, but what is the emotion right now? Because I know that disappointment just must retch through your body.
It really does. We just lost an engine, Gary.
Oh, my.
You know, it's a shame because 3 or 4 times this year we should have done good. And the car was good. Needed a couple of minor changes, but I think we would have went on to win.
You had all their respect today. I know that. Let's go to Jan.
Well, while you have the disappointment there, Gary, you have the elation here. Al Unser Jr. in for his final stop. Man, that was quick. Al Unser Jr., well, I haven't seen a quicker stop here today. And, of course, they didn't really need it now with Boisel dropping out.
12 seconds for Al Unser Jr.'s stop. Routine and smooth. That brings Scott Goodyear into second place.
How close do you have to come? But look now what happens here. Scott Goodyear is in second place. If anything should happen to Al Unser Jr., Goodyear, who is now on the lead lap, brings his car down for the last pit stop. But I have to just tell you, I feel so badly for Dick Simon. We clearly heard there the man could hardly speak, and Boisel wonders what you have to do to try and finally win.
His only victory has come here. Scott Goodyear makes his final stop of this Marlboro 500. Let's go to Gary.
He throws the water bottle out of the cockpit. Chris Griffiths and the company complete the tire change. Still not done with the fueling. That's a little surprising. Now they're ready to roll. 16-plus seconds, Paul.
The gravity flow that the IndyCars use takes a little longer. The fuel goes down in the tank. Al Unser Jr. is the leader. Raul Boisel's clear of his car. And little Al is now a full lap ahead of second place Scott Goodyear. Dominic Dobson in third place. What a great run for Pac West. Ari Luyendyk in fourth. So we said there's some surprises here. Some interesting names at the top of the order.
And Michael Andretti made the classic comment before this race ever started. This historically is survival of the fittest.
There's Dominic Dobson and Ari Luyendyk in what is a fight for position. Luyendyk started 26th, and Little Al's in trouble. Little Al's in trouble.
Scott Goodyear is about to lead this race.
We suggested that if Fittipaldi had the problem, could Al have it too? The Ilmore has let go now in Little Al's car. Here with just 20 laps to go. The lead changes, then changes again as the leaders fall out.
How can you absorb the emotional roller coaster here? Al Jr. was almost a lap down at Indy, and Emerson blew up and handed it to him. Listen to the crowd scream at the changes.
And we go yellow. They go to a full course yellow. Apparently they're worried about oil on the track when Little Al's engine let go. So Scott Goodyear will assume the lead. This man, Dominic Dobson, will go into second place. Ari Lyondike, who started back in 28th, runs in third. Teo Fabi is up to fourth. Mark Smith is up to fifth. The yellow flag comes out. Let's go to Gary.
Well, I suppose that this turn of events now, as you just saw Little Al go by, makes disappointment all that more acute. What is it going to take, Raul, for you to finally win one of these things?
I don't know. He led most of the race. It's a big disappointment. I thought I have a good chance. I was running a good pace. Little Al put a little pressure. You know, I respond. And I don't know. The car was running fine. Everything was perfect. You know, I was making a good pace.
Were you getting your hopes up, realizing the end was drawing closer and closer?
Yeah, you know, for sure. I thought I had a good chance. You know, it was in the bag. I need to keep the pace was running to finish ahead of Al. So, and unfortunately, it wasn't to be, I guess.
Thank you, Raul. We're disappointed. We go to Jan.
Al Unser Jr. is just debriefing here with Roger Penske, and he was actually smiling. Boy, that was a tough day, but you managed to smile even in the event of that engine blowing. First of all, what did you think when you saw Raul's blow? You thought it was obviously your day.
Well, you know, I was real happy that the Raul engine blew. You know, we were going to have a really good race. It was a shame for the fans, really, because you know, we had a lap up on everybody, and so, you know, you don't know what was going to happen. So, but, you know, now we blow up. Now it's probably a good race out there. I don't know.
Were you running flat out, or did you back off a little when you knew that you no longer were in contention with Raul?
No, I started lifting a little. You know, I richened the engine up and, you know, turned the boost down because we had a lap lead. I started backing off a little bit, and, you know, Roger told me all I really needed to run was, you know, 215 to 217, and that was it. And so that's what I was doing. I was just cruising, really, when it blew.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Paul?
So Al Unser Jr. out of the run. And now Scott Goodyear, who won here before, is the leader here at the Marlboro 500. His wife, Leslie, as the Canadians, very close to the border here, begin to cheer.
When we became and
back at the Marlboro 500 at Michigan, they continue to work on Marco Greco's car. He's running in 11th place, but he's well behind the lead. They've been working on it for a very long time. This man, the 40 Budweiser car of Scott Goodyear, is the leader of the race, and the leader by a full lap. He inherited the lead when Al Unser Jr. had the engine let go, right after Raul Boesel had his engine go as the leader of the race. 4 different leaders have fallen out while leading. We're back to green. This should be a dash to the finish. 233 laps complete, 250 the scheduled distance.
I'm sure Scott Goodyear himself can hardly believe what's happening here. Perhaps John Dick's magical soft setup that he wanted Goodyear to try will prove beneficial. Now, he's had lots of help with the attrition rate, but you're glad to take a win whatever way you can get it if Goodyear can just finish these last 16 laps.
Scott Goodyear once again proving his 500-mile legs. His first and only victory came here 2 years ago. Then driving for Derek Walker. There is some speculation that he might end up next year with Derek Walker's team once again.
So he is clear at the moment. We'll follow his lap speed. Last lap was above 216 miles an hour. Fastest lap of the day, 222. That's 7 miles an hour slower than the lead car, but Lyondike, who we may have a triumphant return to Holland bringing this IndyCar. It's more triumphant when you come off a tremendous result.
Started 28th, now runs in second.
The first and second driver, remember, all know what it's like to win 500-mile races. As Sal and Candela, his team owner and manager, clicks the stopwatch. I bet he's checking his heartbeat, not Lyondike's time.
Third place is Dominic Dobson. Max West with a nice result thus far. Looks like the car bottomed again. Seen that several times today off a number of different cars.
There is the surface
Sends your heart right up in your chest every time you see it.
And it seems to be right about where that surface change. That's Teo Fabi in the Reynard, the Pennzoil car right ahead of Lyondike. Lyondike knows he's not going to be a threat to catch Scott Goodyear. So Lyondike's focus really must be on staying ahead of Dominic Dobson in that Pac West car.
Right now we have 7 cars still in competition. 1986 we finished with only 7. Same thing in 91. More to the fact that this race eats up race cars. Lyondike makes the move on Bobby. Not for position, of course, just another lap down for Teo.
Again, I think we saw that car bottom out as they move up to Dominic Dobson. What a run Dobson is finally having. Actually had a great qualifying run. Qualifying 9th outside row 3. Ford engine. You see no sponsorship on this car. Bruce McCaw, one of the owners, chasing sponsorship. Brian Sullivan in on Tuesday just to see where they are with their road racing testing. But this man is doing them proud this afternoon because he is surviving, and it is survival of the fittest.
A rookie in this race, the fastest rookie, Teo Fabi, the 4th place car. His laps have not been all that spectacular recently, down at 209 miles an hour. His top of the race at 219, so he never was truly in contention, but staying in the race through attrition has paid off for Jim Hall's car here, the Pennzoil Special, driven by Teo.
Good look at that drooping anhedral front wing setup that Adrian Reynard uses on these cars. Fabi, who, believe it or not, still commutes from Italy for each one of these races.
Bobby was second in 1989. Here's a wonderful story. First Smith ever in any 500 is in 5th place right now. Again, he stayed with it, persevered throughout the day. Terrific result for young Mark Smith. Quite an aviator, very nice guy.
We followed his toils at Indianapolis many, many times when he failed to qualify. Bumped out of the field 2 years ago, didn't make it again this year. Turned that car upside down trying to qualify at Toronto 2 weeks ago.
Hiro Matsushita runs in 6th. Remember, he had an accident, broke a leg at Indianapolis several years ago, and has never seemed to pick his stride up since that time. It's interesting what a wreck and an injury can do to you.
But he's becoming a lot better known on television in Japan, and now television over here, because recently he just filmed a Northwest Airlines commercial, which will be shown in Japan and, of course, on the Japanese televisions here in the States.
Willie T. Rives, the teammate to Mark Smith. You mentioned he's doing some Cosby appearances. Parker Johnstone also doing an appearance. He's in the movie Speed. But watch it. See if you can figure out the party plays.
Well, whatever the party plays, here's a man that will go to a party tonight. He just took a week off, went to a cabin on the lakes in Canada, trying to rest and relax a little bit. But what an afternoon he may have to tell his young son Christopher. They have a new addition to the family recently. His wife Leslie, who you saw earlier on, bought a new horse, a dressage horse called Par2. And it will be a Indianapolis resident very shortly. His wife Leslie actually competes in dressage and looks forward to that new mount.
No one in contest at the moment. They're running laps out. Boy, he bottomed again as he came through there. Number of cars we've seen bottoming, Jan Beekes. Jan?
What we have seen, Paul, is that the air is getting more dense. We've had cloud cover. The sun has gone away. As the air gets more dense, these cars create more downforce. They suck down onto the ground. That's where those little puffs of smoke, you're actually seeing smoke from the bottom of the car rubbing on the racetrack because the air is getting more dense.
After the Marlboro 500 here, the Indy cars are back to the road courses for one run at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And we'll have coverage on ABC Sports of that event 2 weeks from today.
And they were quick glimpses of John Dick, who along with Dave Benbow are responsible for the way this car goes to the line and the setup that's been on it. What a frustrating year Benbow, who's been there all year, and John Dick have had trying to get success from this Budweiser Lola. But as Robbie Gordon said earlier on, I'd rather be lucky than good any day. You see him bottom out again. Will Scott Goodyear win another 500-mile race at Michigan.
You know, there's a danger of triteness in this, but I think it absolutely applies here. Here's a driver with 4 laps to go, 1 lap fully in the lead. He's seen everything that's gone before in this race today. He's won here once. He's got to be listening to and hearing everything that's happening in that car. Coming up next, the USGA and U.S. Curtis Cup. USA is leading in this international competition 5-4 between the teams from Scotland, Ireland, and Great Britain. Jill McGill and Sarah LeBrun Ingram lead the U.S. team live here on ESPN. That's coming up next. 3 laps to go, about a minute and a half. And Scott Goodyear will have notched his second IndyCar victory, both of them here at the Michigan 500.
He's only started here 4 times.
Marco Greco slows down. They shouldn't go yellow in the last 10 laps. Now he's keeping the car running. At least he's back into the fight. Marco's like 54 laps behind the lead of the race, running 11. He'll work his way up because he's actually running behind cars that have already fallen out.
So back to Scott Goodyear, Kenny Bernstein, who has made so many changes, trying to find the harmony that front-running teams and successful teams need. Brought in Montermini to do 2 road races at Cleveland. Again, he bottoms out. I hope that's okay. Brought in Montermini to do Cleveland and Toronto. Back to Goodyear for this one event. And Scott Goodyear will have chills up and down his spine. He could never have imagined, as Leslie watches, that this type of success could have fallen his way today.
Under 30 seconds away from his second win, and a win at the Marlboro 500. His name on the Dana Trophy already once. Will it go again? Boy, it sure looks that way. The man who perseveres wins. A final couple of bottomings. 3rd turn, 4th turn. Scott Goodyear sees the twin checkered flags from Jim Swintal, and the Budweiser car with Scott Goodyear has taken the win in the Marlboro 500. He'll be followed to the line by Arie Luyendyk and Dominic Dobson. On ESPN has been brought to you by the Valvoline Performance Team. By Mazda. Mazda, it just feels right. And by cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. The Canadian flag flies for a Canadian winner, his second time here. Unofficial results, Scott Goodyear, Arie Luyendyk, Dominic Dobson, as we'll look down through the entire rundown in a long, hard-fought battle in which the man who persevered took the checker, and that was Scott Goodyear. Mario Andretti had such a great run going in his last 500 and then fell out at the edge of the race course. There's the entire order of the 28 that have started, unofficial order of finish. And what is that going to do to the points? Well, we're still closing. Michael Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi sit in 2nd and 3rd, just behind Al Unser Jr. Not much change in the top 3 positions of the points. But what a celebration for Scott Goodyear, who has taken the win here today, Gary Gerald.
Helmet off, second time in your career, same place. You saw 4 leaders in front of you find misfortune today, and here you are. Tell us what this moment feels like,
Well,
Scott.
I'll tell you, it just feels great because for right now, it's been a tough year for everybody, but I have to thank everybody in the Budweiser crew. The guys did some great stops, and I'm ready for a Budweiser, I'll tell you.
Congratulations. We're out of time, but a terrific win. Your second. Celebrate and enjoy.
We are. We're thanking you. Thank you.
So with a long day, Scott Goodyear takes the win. He stayed in there. The points remain pretty much the same, and the Indy cars now head off in 2 weeks to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Lots of racing this week here on ESPN as we head off for the Brickyard 400 as well. I'm Paul Page for Derek Daly. Jan Beekes and Gary Gerald. Congratulations to Scott Goodyear.